From the podcast that brought you Freeway 2 Confessions of a Trick Baby and Russ Meyer's Up comes Paddington 2.
I don't want to see an ordinary film. I want to see something extraordinary.
Your sacrifice completes my sanctuary of 1,000 testicles.
Do you ever feel as if your mind had started to erode?
Let's rock indeed. Welcome to 1000 Wives of Weird, a podcast about everything weird. That's our old slogan.
That's
We've
true.
changed that
Yes.
because we mostly just talk about movies.
Yes.
I am Brad Hefner, and with me, as always, is my good friend.
Billy Martell.
And this week, let's do the up top stuff very quickly because
Yes.
I want to get into why we're doing this movie.
Yes, absolutely.
This week, we are talking about the critically acclaimed, well-loved, well-known film Paddington 2. Mm-hmm. If you are unfamiliar, Paddington 2 is a movie about a talking baby bear who gets sent to prison.
Yeah, that's pretty much exactly it. Talking baby bears get sent to prison based on the Paddington Bear
Books by Michael Bond.
So was it a literary character first, or was it a toy first?
I believe it was a character first.
All right. My only experience with Paddington prior to this is I think I encountered a stuffed Paddington bear once in my life at my grandmother's house.
Gotcha.
But other than that, this one movie, not even Paddington 1, only Paddington 2, the sequel, is the only experience with Paddington that I have.
I've read a few of the stories.
Sure.
I've seen the first Paddington. It's fine.
Sure.
It's a perfectly fine movie.
You have a Paddington bear.
I have my own Paddington that I was given as a baby boy. Mm-hmm. So I'm aware of Paddington. I know a little bit. Mm-hmm. Generally just sort of incompetent. Sort of a... just this dumbass bear.
Just this
ruining life for people.
Oh.
No, absolutely not. Billy, before we get into a long discussion about other things.
Yes.
Would you recommend Paddington 2?
110%. This is one of the greatest movies that's been made in the last 10 years, and it might be one of the greatest movies of all time.
I would also recommend it. I would say that it is one of the greatest movies of all time.
Mm-hmm.
This is absolutely a stunning movie. It's one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
And people, I crow about Paddington 2 a lot.
Yeah.
I've been a big fan. I saw it in the theaters.
Mm-hmm.
I love it. I love it. It still makes me cry. But people will often ask, like, hey, are you serious about this Paddington 2 stuff?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, 100%.
I think that I asked you that because, like, if you even if you don't know Brad personally, if you've listened to the show at all, you kind of get a vibe for like what Brad's taste is usually like, the kind of stuff that he's into. If you've listened to the show at all, when he says something like, "Hey, I love this movie called Frankenhooker," no one's surprised.
Yes.
But when we're talking about something like Paddington 2, I think I do remember thinking back when we were first hanging out and you were saying, "Oh man, you gotta watch this movie Paddington 2," and like, this is a bit, right? And I just think in general, like, it's not on the face of it, a movie that any adult human would be into, much less someone with such outre taste as yourself.
Yes.
But if you actually watch the movie, again, like, the accolades we just gave it, like, it's wow. But yeah, so we wanted to talk about like why the movie is on the show.
Yeah, and again, this is not an obscure. This
movie is not obscure. This movie is not underknown or underappreciated.
This was at one time the best reviewed movie on Rotten Tomatoes.
Yes. I think that there was like a list that someone put out recently which in which this movie was listed as the greatest movie ever made over both Citizen Kane and Vertigo.
And also more positive reviews than like Toy Story 3 or something.
I mean, Toy Story 3 is not the best of those three movies.
People
but
love
sure.
Toy Story 3.
I love Toy Story 3. Not the best of those three movies.
Sure. There are four.
Oh, I refuse to acknowledge the fourth one.
That's fair. It's bad.
I never saw it.
I do like that sport character, though.
I like the sport character, but I haven't seen the movie, so maybe in the actual movie he's offensive as hell.
Also, he does do blackface.
He does. Oh, right, because he's played by Billy Crystal.
Yeah.
Right.
Not voiced by Billy Crystal.
No.
Billy Crystal
Motion
was like...
captured by Billy Crystal.
But not even like... He's just in a suit, and they're like... They like really badly color key him in, chroma key him in.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But no, and by the way, it did eclipse Citizen Kane, and then one review that got unearthed knocked it off, and I was looking I was looking to see like the negative reviews of this film to see what people did not like about it.
Yeah, what knocked it off the
And
pedestal.
this guy, he's allowed his opinion. His thing was basically like, I love Paddington as a kid. This is not the Paddington I know. It's terrible. And that seemed to be his big bone to pick. But the comments for the review that is linked through Rotten Tomatoes are vicious.
Oh, really?
The top comment is die.
Now,
I appreciate the fervor.
the passion, yes.
2,
Yeah.
you're not listening to the messages of the movie.
That's not, yeah, no, Aunt Emily would not be...
Aunt Lucy.
Sorry, Aunt Lucy would not be happy with that behavior. Worst case scenario, you should have given that man's review a hard stare.
Exactly.
And then moved on with your life. But what qualifies this incredibly popular children's film, or I should say actually family film, for our show in which we present 1,000 Wives to Weird?
One, it's weird how fucking good it is.
Yeah.
It's weird how good this sequel to a family film is.
Yes.
And it's not just good in that you'll watch it and like it.
Right.
It's hilarious. It's incredibly poignant. It's beautiful. Like, it's a beautifully made movie. It's a work of art. At times,
Absolutely.
It feels almost like Wes Anderson Jr., but also most of the time it has its own sort of lovely style.
Yeah.
The messages of the movie are fantastic. This is a family film that deals with prison reform.
For real, though. Like,
It does.
The movie is, in my opinion, truly and deeply weird. I guess the only way that I can come at, like, explaining why it is to me is that I think that there's an element of good art that is always deeply weird.
Yes.
Like, if there's not something very strange about a piece of art or very like unique about a piece of art, it's usually not going to stand out from a crowd, no matter how good it is. Even a movie that we joke about being incredibly normcore, that we both enjoyed, That Thing You Do, has its elements of weird to it. Not enough to probably get it on this show.
No.
But still, it does have them. This movie is one of the most perfectly constructed films. You're talking about Wes Anderson light. There was something some film historian said once about a director that's very near and dear to my heart, James Whale, who directed Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, and The Invisible Man back in the 30s.
Yeah.
And they said he would not ever be considered a German expressionist filmmaker, but he would use German expressionism when it suited him.
Yes.
And that is what I think of the filmmakers who made this movie. I do not remember the name of the director off the top of my head.
The director is Paul King.
Paul King.
And it was co-written by him and Simon Farnby.
Gotcha. Well, you talk about the Wes Anderson influence. It seems to me that like they use the Wes Anderson style on occasion when it suits them in a very James Whale-esque way, where it's like, hey...
I'm sorry, Simon Farnaby.
Simon Farnaby. This style would really fit this sequence.
Yes.
But then as soon as they're like, and then we want to do something else, they move immediately away from it. The movie is absolutely impeccable. It's one of the most perfect movies I've ever seen. It is also one of the most, to be fair, I cry like a bitch easily when watching movies. I cry at episodes of Power Rangers. However, this movie is one of the most heartwarming, beautiful pieces of art I have ever seen.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Again, like, I cannot stress this enough. This is a sequel to a family film, and they decided, because you don't get, again, I've only watched Paddington 1 one time.
Right.
So, and it was a while back. I think it might have been right before or right after I saw Paddington 2.
You always try and watch movies that are in a numbered series the exact number of times that the title says to watch them. Because that's an instruction. Like Fast 5, you've seen exactly 5 times, and then you'll never watch it again.
Jason X, 10 times.
10 times,
I don't even
again.
like the movie.
Right.
But I've watched it 10 times.
Exactly 10 times, never again.
All these beautiful touches,
Yes.
I do not recall in the first film.
Sure.
This sort of whimsy, this beauty, this emotion are not present. For whatever reason, Paul King and Simon Farnaby were like, let's just fucking do it.
Yeah.
Let's just make this fucking work of art about this talking bear in a duffel coat that goes to prison.
Exactly. No, the movie somehow manages. When we talk about like a movie with a little bear that goes to prison and like a family movie with a crime plot, immediately your head goes to such terrible movies as like the recent Tom and Jerry film that just came out, where it's like, oh no, these animated characters in a live action setting and there's some sort of crime plot happening, and it just feels all sorts of disjointed and not funny and uninteresting. This movie manages to pull off what it's attempting so impeccably. It feels, nothing in the movie feels out of place.
Gotcha.
Everything seems to happen exactly the way it should be. There's never a moment where you're like, hey, why is this happening in this movie? You're just sort of like, yeah, of course. Yeah, this film has to have a scene where Paddington meets a bunch of hardened criminals.
Yeah, he has to go to prison. The prophecy must be
fulfilled. This is just how this movie would logically progress.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, let's begin the plot.
Absolutely.
We begin in the Peruvian jungle. Paddington comes from darkest Peru. Mm-hmm. And this is a few bear years ago. Pastuzo and Lucy, who are talking bears, which are, I believe in the first Paddington, and this could be established in the books as well.
Sure.
But Paddington is very rare because he is a talking bear.
Oh.
This is a famous species. Not a famous species, but a sort of like a cryptid that a famous explorer discovered. And he's the one who named Lucy and Pastuzo. Pastuzo is named after a boxer.
Ooh, okay.
But they are sitting on a suspension bridge, eating marmalade sandwiches, and talking about their upcoming trip to London.
Absolutely.
Which they learned about from the explorer.
I will say, even though Brad's referencing stuff from the books and from the first movie, I didn't know any of these like behind background details other than, hey, it's two talking bears and they're talking about a trip to London. When I watched it, and this is not quite as disconnected from its first movie as like say Evil Dead 2.
Sure,
but you will not have any kind of problem just watching this one. You will not have any problem losing out on Paddington 1.
You might wonder where Pastuzo goes and assume Michael Gambon just wandered out of the studio into traffic.
Well, almost immediately after this scene, Paddington like has a line which explains what happened to Pastuzo.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
I must have glossed over that.
That's
but
okay.
Pastuzo is dead.
Yes,
he is. Dead man.
Yeah, that's what the Paddington, when eventually, again, spoilers in the spoiler section, shock, but eventually Paddington will be trying to shop for a nice present for his Aunt Lucy, you said?
Yes.
His Aunt Lucy. And when he does, he mentions to the shop owner right off the bat, ever since Uncle Pastuzo died.
Gotcha.
So you can pick up on this stuff real easy.
Lucy is voiced by Imelda Staunton.
Oh, amazing.
Yes, who is a big on stage. Pastuzo is voiced by Michael Gambon.
Yes.
Another huge name.
From famous for being in an independent movie, The Thief, The Cook, His Wife, Her Lover. Or something like that, which is a movie that we definitely need to watch on the show at some point because it's supposed to be fucking crazy.
I think that's a Paul Greenaway film.
Okay.
Peter Greenaway, who I really need to check out his work.
Sure.
Lucy spies a club. Lucy spies...
She spies a club sandwich.
Yes. The next word is clinging, so I ran the two together.
Oh, gotcha.
Lucy spies a cub clinging to a log in the raging river below. Lucy gets lowered down and rescues the cub. She and Pastuzo adopt this sneezy, marmalade-loving bear and become his aunt and uncle.
Mm-hmm. It's so cute.
It's very cute. In present day, Paddington writes an exposition letter to his Aunt Lucy.
Yes.
Who is now in a home for retired bears.
Aww.
Which is nice that they have.
It's good that they have that.
It's wonderful that they have that.
It's good that... I'm glad that their tax dollars are going to that.
Well, she's in Peru.
Right. I'm glad that the Peruvian tax dollars are going to that.
You know how... I don't know if you... This was a big, like, joke... Not a joke report. It's a real thing that's happening. But, like, every morning radio show was like, hey, did you see this? About how, like, nursing homes have a high rate of STIs.
Yes,
because
I did hear about
old
this.
Folks just banging without consequences.
Absolutely.
I think it's the same in the home for retired bears.
One can only hope.
You think like there's some bear with his face just rotting off from syphilis?
Oh my god. That's how they got the bear actor who played the bear in Annihilation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We learned that the steam fair is coming to town, along with a great old steam train. I don't know what a steam fair is. I assume it's just like a regular carnival type thing, but with steam engines.
Celebrating a lot of steam-powered giraffes.
What?
Just that's my obscure reference for the day.
Okay. Hope you feel good about yourself.
Yeah.
We learn about Paddington's neighborhood, and now he helps his friends and neighbors and brightens their day.
Yes.
He hitches a ride with a French woman on the back of her bicycle and gives her a marmalade sandwich.
She always forgets her breakfast.
He reminds a doctor to
get his keys.
Yep, and this doctor
his keys.
calls Paddington with his accent Puddington.
Aww.
I love it. I love it. He helps a garbage man learn the routes, the fastest routes. I guess he wants to be a driver for the garbage truck.
I'm not sure. He has some sort. Maybe it's just a driving exam. It could just be that. But he's practicing for some sort of exam, and Paddington's helping him study while he does his job.
We learn about Paddington's adopted family, the Browns.
Yes.
Mrs. Brown, Mrs. Mary Brown, is trained to swim the English Channel because she's an author and illustrator of children's books, or just books in general, I guess.
Yes.
And she wants her own adventure.
Yes.
And Mrs. Brown is played by Sally Hawkins.
Oh my God.
Who we watched masturbate in The Shape of Water.
Repeatedly.
Yeah. And she also fucked a fisherman.
And then fucked a fisherman. Did that movie come out the same year as this one?
I think it might have. Because this was 2017, which I remember being a very good year for film.
It was. And I remember...
But I was reading in the IMDb trivia, the most reliable source of movie information.
Yeah, of course.
That she had just gotten done filming the intensive underwater scenes in that movie.
Right.
And then learned, there's underwater scenes in Paddington too.
That was sort of the thing, because watching the movie now with Shape of Water in my memory, it almost seems her plot having so much to do with being able to swim really well.
Yeah,
seems almost like a reference to Shape of Water, but it's not. They came out around the same time, so there was no way they could plan that. It's just a weird coincidence. But she's an absolute delight. Oh, in this movie.
Fucking amazing. She needs to do more comedy.
Yeah,
there's a moment.
She's hilarious.
My favorite moment from her, I can't wait to point out, because it's just so natural and wonderful. Yeah. Judy Brown, her teenage daughter, has been dumped by Tony. Ugh, Tony!
As she says, I think you will find that you are being dumped, Tony.
And she has started a school paper with no boys allowed.
Yes.
Jonathan Brown, a.k.a. J-Dog, who is joining Judy at what Paddington calls Big School, which is so cute.
Yes.
Has built a fully working steam engine, like a steam train engine.
Miniature.
Yeah, but he worries that it's not cool and doesn't want his friends to know.
So he's decided to become J-Dog and lock his train in his closet, because steam trains are not cool.
Mr. Brown is having a midlife crisis after being passed over for a promotion.
Yes.
Mr. Brown is played by Hugh Bonneville, whom most will know from Downton Abbey. He plays Lord Grantham, and I'm tickled whenever I see a Downton Abbey alum.
Also, Hugh Bonneville is just hilarious
all
the time.
So funny in this movie.
He's so... I know that I've seen him in something else where he was really funny as well, but he's fantastic, just always.
Mr. Henry Brown, his midlife crisis including dyeing his hair, doing yoga.
Yes, some kind of very specifically named yoga.
Chakrobatics.
That's it, yes. Right off the bat, the movie sets this incredible tone that it will maintain no matter how crazy and dark things get later on. And the best I could compare it to, and this is going to sound like a slight against the film, it's not, is that it has a sort of the pace at which dialogue is delivered and the sort of way that everyone speaks extremely clearly and very sort of matter-of-factly.
Aaron Sorkin.
No, that would be an insult coming from me. No, but I was going to say it reminded me of the show Peppa Pig.
Okay, people seem to enjoy Peppa Pig. Yeah. It's no Bluey.
I have not seen Bluey,
you should watch it. Its episodes are 10 minutes long.
Sure. That's very similar to Peppa Pig.
Just watch some Bluey, and I guarantee you'll love it.
I'm sure. But Peppa Pig has that same sort of thing where, everything is spoken very clearly and matter-of-factly so that the young audience of the story will understand. But at the same time, there's, little hidden edges of cynicism behind the childlike optimism in the show.
Yeah.
And this is the same thing where we're seeing the world through Paddington's eyes, and Paddington is a very young character with a amazingly optimistic and pure view of the world.
He has been taught by his Aunt Lucy that if you're kind, everything will work out.
Exactly.
If you're polite, if you're kind, if you take care of people, things will just work out. Things will just work out. If you are good to people, people will be good to you. Not even that. Just be good to people. Be kind and polite.
That's true. It's not even it's not transactional like that. But because of that, even though he is seeing the Brown family all going through their various crises, he always views it in the most positive possible way.
Yeah, and he's still...
Okay, if J-Dog wants to be called J-Dog and he wants to put his train away, that's fine.
Yeah.
Follow your bliss, J-Dog.
Basically, yeah.
And
he's just so happy to be there.
Exactly.
And he still thinks the world of these people.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. A scene that I thought was amazing at setting up Paddington's complete lack of guile as a character. Mrs. Bird, played by Julie Walters, the dancing instructor from Billy Elliot. She, incredible actress, by the way, she says, "Oh, you got to remember to wash behind your ears, Paddington." And he says, "But I did." And then she pulls a coin out from behind his ear with a little magic trick. And because Paddington cannot conceive under any circumstances of someone not saying or doing something that is straightforward and without any kind of trick or anything, he looks at the coin with a look of such concern that he has somehow failed in his duties of washing behind his ears and says, "Now, how did that get in there?"
Paddington, by the way, is voiced by Ben Whishaw.
Perfectly.
Yes.
An absolutely perfect performance. Ben Whishaw plays Q in the Daniel Craig Bond movies. And
Paddington goes to visit Mr. Gruber, who runs a knick-knack antique shop sort of thing.
Yes.
And he's played by Jim Broadbent, the fantastic Jim Broadbent, doing a thick accent and probably having the time of his fucking life.
One of my favorite Jim Broadbent parts, I think.
Absolutely. You might know him as the police captain of the small town in Hot Fuzz.
That's right. That is my favorite Jim Broadbent performance. Because
a great big bushy beard!
You can't get better than that line. You just can't get better than that line.
Paddington is looking for a present for Aunt Lucy's birthday. I think she might be turning 100.
Yes, that's exactly right. It's not every day that the bear turns 100.
That's right.
Says. Yes.
Mr. Gruber shows him a toy monkey that does flips. Some of what he calls rolling shoes, which are very ornate roller skates.
With little wings on them.
But they're not right.
You know.
But Paddington finds a popping book, as Mr. Gruber calls it, and he immediately falls in love, and it's perfect for Aunt Lucy, who always wanted to see London. It's a pop-up book of, I think, like 9 or so different London landmarks.
Exactly. And another thing about this movie, I was recently watching, for the first time in a long time, the Disney animated film Cinderella. And there's this incredible sequence in it where nothing's happening in the scene. The scene doesn't add anything to the plot. Where Cinderella is washing the floor and she's humming to herself. And as she hums to herself, the bubbles from the water float up into the air, and a million Cinderellas reflected in the bubbles, all as a choir start humming and singing together. And it's just this beautiful little song that doesn't add anything to the plot whatsoever, doesn't add anything to the story. It's just there to be incredible. And I remember thinking when watching this the other day, why don't movies just fucking do that anymore? Why don't they do something just for the sheer whimsy of it all?
Paddington does it quite a few times.
And exactly. And this is one of the first times where...
Yeah, this is where the movie really starts. This is where the movie transcends.
Yes.
And it's good that it does it early, because it's like, you get these early signs of like, okay,
yeah,
this is ambitious.
Yes.
Because we go inside the popping book.
Yes.
And everything, just to be clear, if it was not obvious, if you are not familiar with this film, Paddington 2 is a live-action movie.
Yes.
CGI bear.
Yes. Paddington is a CGI animated creation, and also...
As well are
the other bears
Lucy.
are. But everything else in the movie is live action, with the exception of this sequence.
Yes, now we go inside the popping book. It's styled just like it. Cutouts of everything that rise and fall.
And essentially, we see Paddington in this fantasy showing his Aunt Lucy around New York through
Not
the
New
popping,
York.
I'm sorry, London, through the popping book, or pop-up book, as the Americans would call it.
I'm going to call it. Well, they probably call it that in the UK too. I think it's
Maybe.
just Mr. Gruber talk.
You think it's just Mr. Gruber calls it popping book?
Yeah. I refer to it as popping book in every instance.
Always. I just wanted to make sure that if anyone was confused, we could tell them. But yeah, and it's just this incredible sequence that only exists to be amazing.
Yeah.
It doesn't really
Just to be
communicate
beautiful
any
and
new
wonderful.
information.
No, but it's just...
Oh, and also to give Imelda Staunton a few more lines.
Yeah, and just...
Which is always important. Always do that. Even if she's not in the movie, just give Imelda Staunton lines in your movie.
We've talked about this before on the show.
Yeah.
That when we have to take story notes, meaning it's our turn to host the show,
Yeah.
and we are the ones to walk through the plot,
Yes.
that is not necessarily a fun watch.
That's
It's
probably the hardest part of this whole thing.
It's like doing homework.
It is doing
because
homework.
you just want to watch this movie,
Yeah.
but you have to keep stopping. You have to be like, okay, do I mention this part? Do I not mention it? How do I describe this part?
Right.
This was one of the worst watches I've done for this show because I love this movie so much, and now it was work.
Right.
So it was.
That's the problem when you turn your passion into a job.
Yeah.
It just becomes work at a certain point.
But there is so much of this movie that we cannot convey. Either it's visual, it's just sort of tonal.
Yeah.
It's we can't recount every line. We can't do the delivery justice. We can't do the whatever justice.
And a lot of this movie, the movie pulls from Wes Anderson, as we talked about. The movie also pulls heavily
From silent film.
as we'll see in a second, more of that. But so a lot of this movie, like weirdly, The Street Fighter, a lot of this movie is about like the physical actions and the visual images that you're seeing. So we can approximate that a little bit. We can tell you how cool things are, but at a certain point, as we always say on the show anyway, you're going to just have to watch this movie for yourself. And if it hasn't been communicated enough yet, you should be doing that anyway.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
In his imagination, Aunt Lucy tells Paddington how happy he's made her. Mm-hmm. Oh, tug at my heartstrings.
Absolutely tugging my heart.
We've
also,
all...
there's this great bit of character for Aunt Lucy, where she's like, "Oh, what a polite young man," and then a second later, "Oh, what a polite pigeon." I love that so much.
But it's just... Maybe it's because I'm in a horrible state of Arrested Development, but I feel like it's not uncommon to imagine, like, I'm going to do this thing, and it's going to make somebody so happy.
Yeah.
Like it just... It's going to move them so much. Unfortunately, the book cost $1,000. It's the only one of its kind.
Well,
And-
1,000 of whatever units
true.
of money. They never actually say dollars, and it is in England, so
it'd
it
be
might
pounds.
be euros or pounds or whatever. They don't even necessarily say that. He pulls a coin out of his ear.
The coin from the earlier out of his ear.
Which he's been storing in his ear like an absolute loon. He pulls the coin out and he says, "How about this?" And the guy says, I'm afraid it will take 1,000 of those."
Yeah.
So for all we know, he could have pulled a penny out of his ear. It will take 1,000 pennies.
And Mr. Gruber once again suggests the spinning monkey, which he calls Super Duper. Now, I have a surprise for you.
Okay.
I got Paddington to come to the studio.
Oh my God.
Paddington, why don't you come in? Oi! My name's not Paddington!
Oh, Jesus.
I'm sorry, you look like Paddington. I booked Paddington. My name's Baddington.
This is not the energy I was expecting.
I'm Paddington's identical twin cousin.
Identical twin cousin.
Yeah.
Is
you
that
want to make something of it.
Is that something in bear world that we don't have in human world?
Everybody has it. It can happen at any time.
Oh my
Anytime.
God.
You could be someone's identical twin cousin.
I
You
could-
ever think about that, bruv?
I guess not. Okay.
All right. Well, you know what? I know you came here. Oh, where's Paddington? Where's Paddington? Everyone wants to know where Paddington is. Who fucking cares? Where's Baddington? I went to prison too. No one gave a shit then.
Were you innocent of the crime that you were being accused of? Like
No.
Paddington? Oh, okay.
I commit lots of crimes.
What kind of crimes do you commit, Paddington?
I'm Banksy.
Oh my god.
Not really, but I could be if I tried. I can get a can of paint and shake it all up.
So it sounds like you are guilty of the crime of lying.
Well, yeah. But you know what else I'm guilty of?
What is that?
Elder abuse.
Paddington.
I hit an old man.
Why did you hit
And
that
I took
man?
his food away.
Why?
'Cause
Why?
I'm bad. I didn't have a Aunt Lucy or Uncle Pastuzo. You know who raised me?
Who?
Idris Elba.
I didn't realize Idris Elba would be such an abusive father.
He just wasn't around a lot.
Oh, I
Because
see.
he was acting and DJing.
And you know,
So I grew up on the
canceling
streets.
the apocalypse. Right.
I grew up on the streets of London.
Ah, I see. Okay.
That's why I'm dressed like a chav.
I was about to ask. Yes, you have quite an eclectic garb there.
Well, I'm just going to stick around because I got hired for the hour, so... I do personal appearances for people who think I'm Paddington. Then I kick open the door and I say, wrong, it's Paddington, tosser.
All right, so you are accusing us of not caring where Paddington is and only caring where Paddington is, but you are explicitly misleading us in order to gain money from us.
Oi, I gotta make a living somehow.
Fair enough.
I'm no longer employable because I've been to prison so much.
Do you eat dog food?
Sure.
All right.
For the right amount of money, if that's what you're into. Want me to eat this? I brought a can with me. Want me to eat it?
All right,
you fucker.
When you're breaking your own dog food, that's on you.
I'm eating it right now. Pay me. Pay me.
I didn't even ask you
$100.
to. I didn't even ask you
$100.
to. I did not ask you to.
All right, Paddington, just sit down.
Please calm down, Paddington.
Why don't you chime in?
Yeah.
See how much this parallels your life. Paddington, to pay for the popping book, Paddington vows to get a job. No, Paddington, don't do it!
Don't enter the capitalistic workforce.
Oh, man. I just wish... Spoiler alert, Paddington does not find a consistent job. But
He gets close.
he does well at some things.
Yes.
But...
He does so well. The
I
music
wonder
is created.
I wonder how long it would take for Paddington's spirit to be absolutely crushed by the working world.
Depends on which job he kept doing. I think if he'd stayed at his first job for more than a day, very quickly.
So next we see Paddington has gotten a job at Mr. Giuseppe's barbershop. He's sweeping up hair.
Yes.
Hopefully not eating it.
Hopefully not.
That's a creepy thing to do.
That would be creepy.
You ever eat some hair?
Not intentionally.
Okay. You've never gone to a barber and been like, "Hey, you gonna eat that?"
No. Didn't
You ever
look all that
flash
appetizing
some
to
bills and be like, maybe some of that hair can fall off a truck and into my mouth?
I can eat my own hair. I have a shower drain like everyone else.
Yeah, but I assume it's more erotic for you to eat someone else's hair, especially
Right.
when they don't know it's happening.
That's true.
Then you sit outside their window in a tree, just chomp on their hair, staring at them watching TV.
You know, I never have before, but the way you
I've done that!
Of course you have. The way you describe it, definitely going to do it next time I go.
Absolutely, you should.
Absolutely, yeah.
Tell them I sent you.
I will.
A customer comes in and insists Paddington give him a trim. And this is the classic contrived comedy thing where it's like, I'm not going to listen to you because I'm in a hurry and this is what we need for the comedy to happen.
Absolutely.
But I never, even when Paddington 2 is contrived, I never give a shit.
No.
Because it zips by it so quickly.
It zips by it so quickly, and also this is the main thing I was talking about when it comes to silent movies. There's plenty of silent movie influence throughout the movie, but especially in these sequences because Paddington 2 has a lot of slapstick comedy elements to it, and the difference between Paddington 2 and every other modern movie that utilizes slapstick comedy is that this is funny.
It is.
And you aren't just begging for it to be over.
And also, no one's getting hurt.
Yeah, Paddington will get knocked around a little bit here and there, but it's never a situation of like, oh no, he just got crushed. It's more of like, oh.
And he's also never hurting anybody.
Exactly.
And no one is hurting him.
Right.
But the antics are highly reminiscent of
of Buster
silent
Keaton
movies
or
and stuff
Charlie
like that.
Chaplin. And there's another element to it of he's got that. Paddington has that sort of perfect childish but not in any way malicious persona that Buster Keaton and Charlie Chaplin were so good at embodying in their heyday, of just sort of like someone who's just trying their best and things just keep not working out for them.
None of his antics ever come out of malice or like, hey, let's play a trick on somebody, or I'm going to do this because I think it's fun.
Right.
He's very well-meaning. He's just a dumbass. He's the dumbest bear in the world.
Which is not to say that slapstick can't work if there is malice.
Oh, no, I'm not saying that.
Three Stooges and Mr. Bean
but
are
this is
both
a
like
family film.
Yeah.
And this is what children should see.
As someone who is a huge fan of silent comedy and a huge fan of like the Pink Panther movies and Mr. Bean and all that stuff, I'm always hoping that there will be something like that again that will really get how to make slapstick comedy work. And I was not expecting that the only bastion of slapstick comedy in our modern day cinema would be a cartoon bear. But this is where we are. This is what's happening.
I've got an idea.
Sure.
You can veto this.
Okay.
You have that power.
Okay.
Let's dig up the corpses of Charlie Chaplin, Buster Keaton, and all, 60 of the Stooges that there were in total?
Something like that,
Let's plop them down on a couch that we covered in plastic.
Sure.
I'm sure they're pretty rancid. They're bones.
Yeah, corpses.
And play Paddington 2 for them. Then we'll go put them back before anyone notices.
I think I am going to veto that. I don't think that's...
You don't think their souls down in hell would enjoy that?
I think their souls down in hell would enjoy that. I just don't think that bringing their corpses along would be good. I think what we need to do is find a medium to have a seance, and then once we've summoned their spirits, then we turn on the movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you be willing to have all of those spirits possess you so they can view it through your eyes?
I think that the absolute majesty of Paddington 2 is so important to me, and sharing that is so important, that I think I would consider it a holy calling to do that. Yeah.
And then I will play Jesus and cast your demons into a pig and send them off a cliff.
Exactly.
But Paddington starts some electric clippers, but they're too powerful for such a small bear.
Yes.
It shakes him and moves him about the shop, wrapping the cord around him as he goes. Just as he's about to vibrate into the back of the customer's head and commit a very big hair faux pas, he stops short. The cord has gone taut. Everything is working out, but the cord has wrapped around the lever to the barber's chair.
Oh, no.
And the customer reclines into the clippers, and he does a nice landing strip up the back of the customer's head.
And there's a note that I made later, but I will just talk about it right now. Talking about what is necessary to make slapstick comedy work. My wife, Kaylee, is an incredible director. And something that she said to me about her philosophy of directing theater, but this is also, I think this also applies to film, is that she said, in her head, theater and film are like music. There is a tempo and there is a melody, and you have to play the notes right and on the right tempo, or else it's just not right. There are different tempos for different projects. Not everything's going to be exactly the same, but there is still a tempo and a melody. I don't think that there's anything more that this applies to more than like this kind of comedy.
Yeah.
And everything about Paddington 2 is exactly right. Every joke hits at exactly the moment that it needs to for the maximum impact. And the physical movements and just like the amount of time between, oh, I'm safe with the buzzer and then the chair going back is exactly correct. The timing is absolutely impeccable.
It is. It's wonderful. Yeah. And it's also amazing that these things are being achieved by a CGI creation.
Yeah.
That it's so fluid, it's so well done that like it plays incredibly well.
You don't even think about the fact that the bear's not even there.
Yeah.
And also, they're able to add a couple of little extra jokes using animation. Like when the buzzer is going and he's like having trouble controlling it, they add this amazing little ripple effect to his fur where all of his fur is buzzing on his body. It's great.
But Paddington has a plan. He has his ever-present orange marmalade.
Yes.
That's Paddington's signature. He
signature.
Loves marmalade.
It's like Winnie the Pooh and honey, except it's Paddington and marmalade.
So he smears some marmalade on the man's head, and slaps the hair back on. But that wily customer sees through the ruse immediately.
Somehow.
Just in time for Mr. Giuseppe to come in and sees all the chaos, and he fires Paddington. Oh, I got fired once.
Color me surprised. How did you get fired, Paddington?
I punched a baby.
What was the job that you were at?
Security.
Security for what?
The Rolling Stones.
What? How did a baby get involved in the Rolling Stones?
Someone chucked it at Mick Jagger. What? And I'm like, not today. And I spiked it out of the sky. And for some reason, I'm the bad guy. Paddington doing bad again.
Did you realize it was a baby, or did you just see a projectile headed for Mick Jagger?
Bears have very good eyes.
Oh, okay. You could have gotten me on your side by just being like, I just thought it was a projectile there, but you decided.
I don't like to lie.
We established you as a liar just a few minutes ago.
I don't recall that. Have you been sniffing glue? Because I got some to sell if you need some more.
I'm good, thank you. I have just as much Elmer's as I need.
Well, I have better glue. I have the glue that gets you high.
Oh, okay. Does Elmer's not get you high?
No.
Oh, okay.
You can eat that shit, mate.
Oh, okay. That explains my childhood.
That night, it's time to go to the Steam Fair. We're introduced to Phoenix Buchanan.
Oh my God.
One of the most amazing characters in cinematic history, played by Hugh Grant in his greatest role ever.
Unquestionably.
He is giving everything
Hugh Grant,
to this role.
Of course, was on our show before in Lair of the White Worm,
yes,
along with another actor who's also in this movie, Peter
Capaldi.
But
they share no scenes, so they could not reminisce about that.
Unfortunately,
about their glory days.
Their glory days. My God, I always, growing up, it was sort of like a common joke to joke about Hugh Grant's acting. And I think it's mostly because a lot of his career has been in rom-coms, which
and just
are
sort
unfairly...
of doing the same sort of shtick.
Just doing the same sort of shtick.
Stuttery, charming.
Yeah, and there's nothing... I mean, hey, you got to pay the bills, I understand. As
he has to get money for a sex worker somehow.
Exactly.
Hey, it's the early 90s, and I'm a talk show host.
But, if you are under the impression that Hugh Grant is a bad actor for whatever reason,
or just even mediocre,
watch this movie. His performance is something to behold,
and this is
on the level of Glenn Close's Cruella de Vil in terms of over-the-top, bizarre family movie villainy. It's incredible,
and we'll get to it, but
yeah.
And again, this performance is one of the things that it's just not going to translate to this podcast. Like, you need to see it to understand it.
I described it in my notes as Hugh Grant plays Vincent Price playing Kenneth Branagh.
Sure. Sure. I don't know enough to argue with that.
Sure.
But Phoenix Buchanan, also amazing name.
Oh, yes.
Amazing name.
Absolutely.
He used to be a big deal actor, seems mostly on the stage, but according to Mrs. Bird, he's now relegated to doing dog food commercials.
Yes.
And here's where I wondered, Mrs. Bird is the Browns' slave? I guess maid, nanny. I think she's their housekeeper, but she's de facto a member of the family.
I fully didn't realize that she was an employee. I thought that she was just like one of their moms or an aunt or something.
Gotcha.
I didn't even think about... I didn't even realize watching it that
you
her
thought
last
it was one
name
of their
was different.
moms, like there was that the Browns were a part of a throuple. And
no, like one of the either Mr. Brown or Mrs. Brown's mom.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, like Grandmama in the Addams Family or something like that. Yeah.
Nope, I think she's their housekeeper, but she is a member of the family and loves Paddington.
She's a full member of the family, and we never see her like serving anybody or anything.
No, not really.
She sort of hangs out. Also, one last note about Hugh Grant: I want every single costume that he wears in this movie.
Oh my God,
I want every single one.
He is going to have a lot, as we're going to see.
Yes, and they are all great.
But Phoenix Buchanan is there to open up the Steam Fair. We also learned that he is a new neighbor of
Yes.
the Brown family.
Yes, he has the big house.
He has the
that they
big
talk
house,
about.
which they all live in very nice houses.
Yes,
'cause
they
it's
do.
a movie.
Yes, but his house is the only one with a veranda.
Yes. But this fair was not meant for West End legends like Phoenix Buchanan.
Oh.
It's meant for you, the common people.
So humble, so humble. The people. He doesn't do it for him. He does it for you.
So he picked somebody from the audience.
Eeny,
Meeny, miny, bear. And I love that he apparently knows about this talking bear because
again, they're neighbors.
But he's still like, oh.
Only Hugh Grant's performance in this movie could possibly replace the iconic way that Christopher Walken said bear in the Country Bear Jamboree movie. This is the best way that anyone has ever said bear in a movie is
Now we get this amazing exchange.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to be Phoenix Buchanan or Paddington?
I'll be Phoenix Buchanan just because
Okay.
I love doing his voice. I suppose you know who I am.
You were a big actor, or you used to be. Now you do dog food commercials.
Well, the man has to eat.
What? Dog food? I love it. It's hilarious. It's a
so
wonderful
good.
misunderstanding.
And the best part of it is, again, Paddington is
he's
so...
not trying to burn him.
No! He's so completely absent of guile that he just takes whatever is thrown at him in the same way a child will... you have like a mother and her child going through a grocery store will see someone who's like, that man's bald or something like, and the mother will just like pull the child away.
Yep.
Because they don't have any sort of like idea of deception or like, hey, certain things that are said in a way that you shouldn't repeat to a person's face. He's just sort of like, well, no one could ever mean anything bad to anyone else, so everything must be fine.
And as we've learned previously, it's not uncommon for Paddington's relatives, or bears in general, I guess, to eat dog food.
Sure. Yeah, and so he's just a little bit confused because he didn't know that people ate dog food is all.
Phoenix Buchanan asked if Paddington could have one wish. What would he ask for? Paddington, of course, mentions the popping book. Phoenix is very intrigued by this popping book. He grills Paddington about it, and he finds out where it is at Mr. Gruber's store.
Again, Paddington does not notice all the really suspicious, creepy vibes that Phoenix is giving off because Paddington cannot conceive of anyone having ill will towards anyone.
Yes. And now we get one of my favorite sequences in the film. Paddington is going to be a window cleaner.
Yes.
And here's where I note it's an entirely physical bit, absolutely silent.
Yes.
Not silent like there's music and Paddington makes like,
By the way, we were listening to the score a little bit earlier just because we've started doing that a little bit, and the score for this movie is fantastic.
Oh, it's wonderful.
It's incredible. But yeah, it's just a great bit of physical comedy of Paddington trying to figure out how to wash some windows.
He has a bucket. He doesn't know how to get the bucket filled with water up to the window because it's too heavy.
Yeah.
You just need to see it. Like, I could describe every beat of this. It's not going to be enjoyable.
It would be just as pointless as describing all the ways that Tsurugi fucks people up in his movie.
But it's just, again, this is a CGI character, and everything feels so real and natural.
There's weight, there's timing, everything is impeccable. You can, again, listening to the score, I was listening to the score for this scene in particular, and the music is scored to stop and start precisely on rhythm with moments happening in the film. It's so many movies just sort of like go and they're like, it's a movie, whatever. And this movie is so intentional and specific about every choice it makes. It's
Absolutely.
incredible.
Eventually he gets the hang of it, though. And he cleans several windows.
And he learns the secret, which is don't bother with the squeegee. Cover yourself in suds and use bear fur.
And we get a perfect Paddington moment where he goes to the house of the Colonel. And the Colonel doesn't want his windows clean. And he won't pay.
Yes, the Colonel is the only sort of curmudgeon that we met during the opening montage.
Yes, he was not mean. He was just closed off.
He was very closed off, yes. This is the closest he gets to being mean, is just like, no, I don't want my windows washed and I won't pay.
And Paddington goes, well, maybe I'll do them anyway.
Yeah. Because Paddington is perfect.
And this gives the Colonel a view of the lonely newsstand lady across the way. And the newsstand lady is played by Jessica Hines.
From Shaun of the Dead.
from Shaun of the Dead. She's the Alterna Shaun that they meet
Yes.
during that wonderful sequence where
Shaun!
the two groups meet and they
Yes.
pass by the mirror versions
The
of
mirror
themselves.
versions of each other, yeah.
But she is also from the show Spaced.
That's right.
Another Edgar Wright, Simon Pegg, Nick Frost thing. So I didn't recognize her. It's been
I recognize
a few
her. I love
years
her.
since. She's wonderful. You should watch Spaced.
I really should. I know it's on Tubi right now.
It's not. It's one of those shows where I'm like, I enjoy this. I don't laugh a ton at it, but I enjoy all the people involved so much. That I'm like, it's worth watching.
Absolutely, and I'm such a huge hoe for Edgar Wright these days. I should know where he came from.
The Colonel gets a visit from Mean Man Peter Capaldi.
So Peter Capaldi was the villain in the first one, right?
He was one of the villains. The main villain was Nicole Kidman.
Interesting. Okay.
Who was, I think she was like a museum lady, sort of explorer who wanted Paddington as an exhibit.
Okay.
Because he's such a rare type of talking Peruvian bear.
Ah, I see. Okay.
And we get my favorite song of the movie, played by a calypso band that was assembled for this film.
They're not a pre-existing band.
No.
They just sort of gathered the musicians. That's amazing.
Called Tobago and Delime. And this, again, I can sing the song for you. I can hum it for you. It's not, just go...
We're not going to do that. But, it's just this very simple song. Again, something like you would maybe hear on, like, a PBS show or something, just about, like, how fulfilling it is to grab a squeegee and just sort of wash some windows. And it's amazing. And this musical number takes place, again, another type of cinema that heavily involves rhythm and melody, just way more explicitly. The sequence ends with it revealing that Paddington's sort of rig that he uses to go up and down the windows features the band actually there
playing
the music, which is makes absolutely no sense within the universe of the film.
No.
And who gives a shit?
Who gives a shit? Because it's fun.
Exactly.
It's fun and it's whimsical, and I love it.
Movies don't have to make sense. It's art.
No.
It's art.
Like, it's just...
Yeah.
I see nothing that it takes away from by having the band there. Like, again, it's a movie about a talking bear.
Precisely.
He can have a calypso band follow him around. Why the fuck not?
Exactly, yes.
They even go to prison with him.
They
Spoiler
do.
alert.
Spoiler alert.
After a hard day at work, in the evening, Paddington walks by Mr. Gruber's shop, where he sees a mysterious bearded figure break in and steal the popping book.
It's the old man from the Monty Python Flying Circus opening.
The police see Paddington fleeing and assume he is the suspect. But Paddington is chasing the figure who escapes on a bike. So, Paddington calls for his dog friend, Wolfie. And Paddington rides Wolfie like a fucking boss. This is a great sequence. This feels like it would be at home in the... I love it. I don't know that it ever made much of a big splash, but the CGI Tintin movie.
Yeah, I don't know what people think of what the zeitgeist of Tintin is, but I also love the Tintin movie, and
that is such a fun CGI animated adventure movie with a lot of great chases,
with a lot of very sort of Rube Goldberg elements to a lot of the action scenes, and this does feel a little bit like those. I would actually say I like this more than the chase sequences in Tintin, just because, again, a lot of the chase sequences in Tintin can seem very sort of like almost too smooth, where things will sort of happen. So many things are happening, you almost don't notice what's going on.
Because Tintin is just Indiana Jones. It was even directed by Steven Spielberg, wasn't it?
It was directed by Steven Spielberg, yes.
So he was just doing CGI Indiana Jones.
Right, but everything in Indiana Jones and Raiders of the Lost Ark, at least, everything that happens has, like, very, again, weight, impact, and tempo to it. Whereas in Tintin, where a lot of fun stuff does happen, and again, I do enjoy the movie, a lot of the stuff, a lot of the slapstick and the things that are happening seem to be almost so smooth as to be hypnotic. It's almost like you're watching a screensaver.
You just sort of zone out.
Exactly. You're not paying attention to everything. Whereas in this one, a lot of stuff is happening, but you feel the impact of every
like
decision
you said, there's
everything that happens.
There's a nice tempo and a nice flow. Like, at one point, Paddington hitches a ride on a swan.
Exactly.
And it feels like...
And then the swan attacks him.
Sure. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But Paddington almost has the Beard Man.
Yes.
But Beard Man throws a smoke bomb and disappears. The cops arrive and don't believe Paddington's story that a man disappeared into a puff of smoke, and he is arrested. ACAB, ACAB, however you
Yes.
want to say it. The
Profiling,
criminal
I
justice
say.
system is broke.
Profiling bears.
They even make this fucking baby bear do a perp walk through his
Yes.
neighborhood. Peter Capaldi is Mean Man. Monologues about how Paddington is a thief.
I wrote this down just because Peter Capaldi might be one of my favorite actors of all time. Just like, we opened our hearts to that bear. We opened our doors. Well, you did. I kept mine triple locked in accordance with recommendations.
Peter Capaldi has appointed himself as block security captain or some such.
Yes.
Which the colonel asked him earlier if that's an official position or something he just named himself.
Is that an official position, or did you just buy a yellow coat? Is what he asked him, which is incredible.
The Browns are much distraught.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, the Beardman is in a strange room filled with mannequins and costumes. And it turns out the Beardman is actually Phoenix Buchanan in character as Magwitch from Oliver Twist.
Oh my god. We see that he has a bunch of costumes from a whole bunch of different roles that he's played in the past.
Macbeth, Hamlet, Poirot,
Ebenezer Scrooge.
Ebenezer Scrooge.
And he has them all on these mannequins up in his attic, and he fully has conversations with these characters.
Doing different voices, different characters. I think he takes different postures for some
Yes.
too.
Yes, he does.
And he's also looking into a vanity mirror with the lights all around.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess he can sort of see the mannequins in the
mirror.
reflection.
Yeah.
So he, in his mind, he is having a conversation with these mannequins.
Yes.
But he's also just fully insane.
This character is a full on crazy pants.
But again, they don't tip it too much. He's not
No.
like stark raving insane. Again, it feels like, yeah, this is what this full of himself dude would do.
Yeah.
It is fucking insane, but
It
also it's not like, okay.
This is where I started making the Vincent Price comparisons in my head, because the character is so deliciously camp. So, like, it feels like a character that would be straight, like, oh my god, in the 60s Batman show, oh, Robin, we got to get to the Batcave. Turns out the old villain, the Shakespearean actor, themed bad guy, is in town again, and you just, like, cut to a Dutch-angled evil headquarters where Hugh Grant, the celebrity guest star of the episode, is just sort of talking to these mannequins. It's so delightfully evil. Again, putting this guy on the same pedestal for me of children bad guys as like Cruella de Vil or Professor Ratigan, like that sort of like camp villainy.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
Phoenix Buchanan wants to make his comeback with the greatest one-man show the West End has ever seen. We also learned that the Popping Book is actually a map to a great treasure.
That was the other thing that I compared to the 60s Batman show, because for some reason in a majority, it feels like, of the episodes of the 1960s Batman show, whatever the bad guy's doing has something to do with a secret treasure map that's hidden somewhere.
There's a lot of secret treasures out there.
There's a lot of secret treasures.
Oi, I got a secret treasure.
I can't wait to see where this goes.
I got, I do some Randy movies.
Oh, God.
Mostly they're just me, J-O-ing. Not a lot of
God.
human women want to have sex with a bear.
Oh, I see.
Especially one that's like 3 foot tall and looks like a child.
Right.
Also, I have a smell about me. I don't know if you noticed.
Wasn't going to say anything. Sure.
That's what meth smells like.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
But
Uh-huh.
I have a bunch of Betamax tapes
Oh.
of me just going to town on myself. For $355, I'll draw you a map.
Draw me a map to where the Betamax tapes of you jerking off are.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Also, I can probably get them signed by Mr. Idris Elba.
You
Just
can
don't
probably.
just don't tell Daddy what's on them.
Right. Okay. I'll take that under advisement, Paddington. Thank you.
Now, in a brilliant move, we see Phoenix Buchanan's dog food commercial.
Yes.
Now, before this, he has a line about being in a Spaniel's costume.
Yes.
I feel like the first time I watched it, I definitely glossed over that.
Right. Yes.
Because when we hear that Phoenix Buchanan is in dog food commercials, we assume he's playing a human.
Right.
That is not the case.
The commercial even sets you up with that idea, because the first lines you hear in the commercial are from a British butler.
Yeah.
Making you assume that he is playing the butler in the scenario. Not so.
He is in a ridiculous dog costume that looks like a Muppet with the face cut out.
Yeah.
It's that shaggy and that poofy. Looks like sort of, what is it, Sweetums?
Yeah, like Sweetums or maybe Rolf the dog.
Sure,
Yeah.
but like fluffier.
But like huge.
And
It
upper
looks-
crust, he has a monocle.
He makes, yes, with a monocle. It makes the beaver costumes from the BBC Chronicles of Narnia adaptations look good by comparison. It still does not make Matilda look good, but nothing really can.
No.
Yeah.
But it's such a goofy costume. He takes a forkful of the food, which...
Basically, the concept of the commercials, he's playing a very discerning dog with a
Yes.
discerning palate. He's like, if your pooch wants the very best, you should try this kind of dog food.
And after he takes a forkful of the food, we get a disclaimer that is not to be consumed by humans.
Hugh Grant deserved an Oscar for the Harley's dog food commercial alone.
Absolutely. He should have
Alone.
gotten something. He should have gotten some recognition for this film. Like, official, like...
Maybe not an Oscar, some award that means something, but still.
Latin Grammy.
Sure, yeah. Latin Grammy.
Paddington is on trial.
Yes.
But who is the judge? The man whose hair he ruined.
That's right. And right before that scene, you have him saying, I've been told that all I need is a fair judge. And then it cuts to, yes. Seeing that judge on the
Again,
stand.
The criminal justice system is corrupt.
Fully corrupt.
It seemed, I wonder what Paddington's bail was. Because he's out and about, like they don't bring him in from jail.
Yes.
So I wonder, like...
I don't know, but I do know, again, we do know that the Browns are fairly well off, so I'm sure that they were able to take care of it.
True. And here's...
I also want to point out in this courtroom scene, just because making an effort to not mention works created by TERF, so I won't talk about the show that I know this actor from, but just generally a fan of British comedy in general, made me very happy to see Richard Ayoade have a cameo.
Oh, yeah, Richard
Ayoade have a cameo.
Yeah, he's great as a forensic scientist. Who,
Yes.
One of the clues that it was possibly Paddington is that marmalade was found here, and in this general vicinity, pointing to the entire
store.
map.
And they say, "Is this the same marmalade?" And bring him Paddington supply, and he tastes it, and then with delivery of utter like horror and like certainty of someone on CSI Miami or something, he's like, "The very same."
It's fantastic.
It's so good.
But Phoenix Buchanan testifies.
Yes, because he claims that he was witnessed
an
the whole
eyewitness
thing.
to the crime.
Yes.
And he says he saw... Again, it's impossible to convey this performance. He says he saw Paddington riding a rather disreputable hound.
And also, again, like, the character is so fully realized. Everything about him is ego.
Yes.
To the point where, even when looking at the...
sketch of the Beardman.
sketch of the Beardman made by Mrs. Brown.
Yeah.
He can't help but self-aggrandize, like, what a dashing chap.
Says, oh, what a handsome devil.
What a handsome devil.
And Phoenix Buchanan is the deciding factor. If he has seen the Beardman, Paddington can go free.
Right.
But Phoenix Buchanan knows he needs to tie up every loose end he can.
Yes.
And he says he didn't, and Paddington is sent to jail. This is another fucking insane thing about this movie.
Yeah, I was
the
gonna
bear
say,
goes to jail.
We've mentioned it several times.
Wait, he doesn't go to jail. He goes to prison.
He goes to prison. We've mentioned it several times already at this point, so it's not a surprise that he goes to prison if you're listening. But I just want you to think about it, just in context of what you're watching. And the direction that this movie has decided to go.
This is a child bear. A bear, literally
Yes.
like 3 feet, mind of a child, is going to be sent to big boy prison.
Big boy prison, like he's talking about big school.
Yes,
big
exactly.
prison, the big house.
Yeah, he doesn't even get sent to juvie. I got sent to juvie. I see how it works. Paddington always going to the big leagues. Paddington always going to juvie.
Would you rather have gone to adult jail,
I
Paddington?
could take him.
Okay.
I have been to adult jail.
You have been. Okay.
I tried to join the Aryan Nation. But they don't really have that in the UK. It's just Nazis.
Right. Just straight up
But
Nazis.
I want the brand recognition.
Right,
On my,
right.
on my CV.
On your CV. God.
I tried to join the Yardies.
Jesus.
I tried to join the IRA. No one wants Paddington. He's too bad. Everyone's like, you're a loose cannon and you're 3 feet tall.
So you're not a child bear. You're just like a very
I'm
short bear.
the same age as Paddington because
Okay.
we're identical twin cousins.
Right.
How many times do I need to explain it to you?
Gotcha. I'm sorry. I need to listen better. But,
But Paddington...
yes.
This is another reason why I think people were confused about the legitimacy of my love for Paddington 2, is because the thing that I would always say about Paddington 2 is the bear goes to prison.
Right.
Because it's so fucking crazy.
It's so crazy.
And it's so cute, though.
The movie is so deft with how it handles its tone. Again, there's so many children's films, so many family films involving like these kind of IPs that always feel like they're going off the rails. Again, there's so many of them that involve pointless crime plots.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a big fan of the Addams Family movies, which is another sort of like family-friendly IP.
You mean the new Addams Family movies?
No, I'm talking
Okay.
about the Raul Julia, Angelica Houston, Addams Family movies. Then they use these sort of family-friendly IP in a big budget setting, and they inject this crime plot that feels totally at odds with the rest of the movie. This movie is completely different, in which the fact that Paddington is going to prison doesn't feel like an afterthought, doesn't feel like something just there to give the movie plot. It is central to the themes of the film.
Exactly.
And
also to the progressive message of the film.
And the movie manages to have this incredibly dark plot point happen in a way that doesn't feel at odds with the tone of the rest of the film in any way, to the point where you have this moment, this incredible moment. He's being walked to his cell, put in his cell, and he turns around and says to the prison guard that's been walking him there, I usually get a bedtime story read to me.
And the
prison guard said, we don't have bedtime stories being read here.
We don't have bedtime stories in here. And Paddington's face, if it was any way for it to fall any farther than it already has from him being in prison, it does. And you get that twist of a knife in your heart. Where you realize, like, this is a baby. This is a baby in prison.
Not only is it a baby,
which
but
is
like,
my unproduced HBO pilot.
baby in prison. The way that the tone has been so successfully handled, him saying this feels like one of the darkest moments from something like Shawshank Redemption.
Yeah.
It feels like that moment of like, oh God, things truly are inhuman in here. Like, so many other movies spend so many rape scenes in prison movies trying to convey how bad prison is. And one line of a prison guard telling a child bear that he's not going to get a bedtime story ruined me.
Yeah, I believe it. I believe it, and I understand.
Yeah.
By the way, this podcast will be free of prison rape jokes. Do not worry.
Yeah, absolutely.
But here's something that helps, is that Paddington looks so fucking adorable in his prison outfit. Like, it is one of the cutest things you will ever seen.
Yes.
It's the classic black and white horizontal stripes, but a bit faded. They don't pop. And he has a black and white vertical stripe cap.
Yes.
And it's just so goddamn cute.
Paddington is one of the cutest cinematic characters to have ever existed.
And again, you don't usually think of CGI creations as being that cute. I mean, I guess now you have
not really.
Baby Yoda and shit like that.
Well, Baby Yoda is a puppet.
That's right.
It's a practical effect.
It is a puppet. Before we get to the moment you just talked about,
Yes.
the cinematography of Paddington walking through this prison is absolutely gorgeous.
Yes. Absolutely. This is the prison scenes, probably just because of how much Grand Budapest Hotel lives in my mind.
Well, this is very Grand Budapest Hotel.
The prison scenes feel the most Wes Anderson.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
There are other sequences that take from Wes Anderson, especially the opening sequence where he's describing the stage of life that all the Browns are in.
Yes, and sort of going throughout the house.
The prison sequence has the most Wes Anderson feel for me.
And I think that's another way of, like, the filmmakers sort of cutting the darkness. Like, here we're going to amp up the whimsy. Like, this is a bad place.
Yes.
Paddington should not be here.
Right.
But
unquestioned, they don't shy away from that at all.
But this is still... It's not scary. It's just bad.
It's just, this is a sad thing that he's in jail, but we're not Return to Oz. We're not here to traumatize children. We're here to carry this plot through and carry this incredible message through.
Paddington writes a letter to Aunt Lucy saying he had to move, but everything is okay. The Browns can only visit him once a month, and he's worried they'll forget him.
The second he says that, we cut to the Browns going absolutely ham on trying to get him out of prison.
They're fucking pounding the pavement.
Yeah.
Trying to find evidence of the Beardman.
They have taken the printing press that Judy Brown was using to publish her newspaper and are instead using it to print out dozens and dozens and dozens of signs. And this is the first moment in the movie where I fully burst into tears.
No, it's...
During this watch, at least. I don't remember the first time I watched it, but this time, like, that 1-2 punch of... I hope they won't forget me, to them fully having not forgotten him. I may cry now. Like, it was so good.
And this is something that really struck me on this watch. Like, I'm not going to say that... I definitely believe that Paddington 2 is a movie about prison reform and the criminal justice system. I believe that's blatant.
It's a movie about progressive values in general, I would say. A more, like, just sort of a general... progressive philosophy.
But on this watch, I was sort of picking up things that resonated with my depression, my neurodivergency, where it's like, I know that people love me, but I'm like, they'll forget about me like that. Like, immediately.
Yeah.
Like, and it, like, even though it's sort of like meant to be this childlike sentiment, it's still like, well, shit, I feel like that all the time.
Yes, I think that's true for both of us, and I think that's probably why this moment hits so hard.
Yeah.
Because it is something
also,
that I struggle with a lot.
Even if we don't see it, we know that people love us and care about us. It's just not in front of our face right now.
Right. It is sort of like a baby seeing their mom, and mom puts their hands in front of their face. Oh no, where did mom go?
Yeah, we have emotional object impermanence.
That is kind of what ADHD is. Just
I guess I have it too. You gave it to me, bitch!
Oh no!
I caught it from your toilet seat.
It's catching!
But Phoenix Buchanan has infiltrated a museum in a suit of armor, the stealthiest of outfits. There's a common misconception about ninja. That they wore, like, cloth outfits. No, they got into full samurai armor.
See, part of what you just said...
Clunk, clunk, clunk.
Part of what you just said was fully correct. So I was, like, wondering if you were going somewhere actually historically accurate with that. But no. No, they went clunk, 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 went the ninja.
Yep.
Yes.
Here he finds the first clue to the treasure. D. He's looking for that D.
He's looking for that D. Every time he finds a letter as he's searching for these things, he draws it in...
Oh, what a bitch.
In the popping book. And again, because this movie is so perfect at drawing you into its worldview and the way that the world is, and like aligning yourself with Paddington in this sort of very black and white view of morality. Yeah. Him drawing in that book is a slap in the face.
Yeah, no, it sucks. It's a one-of-a-kind heirloom.
I wrote... The note I wrote is, how dare you write an Aunt Lucy's book?
It's a new day at prison, and Paddington is leading with kindness and manners as he was taught by Aunt Lucy.
Yes.
He asks a huge inmate named T-Bone if he'd like to start a gardening club.
Yes.
And the inmate threatens to kill Paddington.
Oh, God.
Grant, he doesn't say, I'm going to murder you. He says, how about I bury you in a real deep hole?
Yes.
Or something to that effect.
Yes. Which Paddington doesn't say this, but probably assumes that the guy has misunderstood how to garden.
Yes.
Yes, knowing Paddington.
Paddington is assigned to laundry duty, but that silly bear puts a red sock in with all the black and white uniforms. Cut to all the inmates in sort of a light. Again, they're not bright colors yet.
Yeah.
Because this is the sad place. Mm-hmm. So it's sort of a faded, but everyone's in pink, and they're not happy about it because they're all hardened criminals.
Before we get to this upcoming sequence, I just want to say that before he gets the red sock in the washer, there isn't another slapstick sequence involving the laundry. Mm-hmm. I, for my day job, work in a hotel.
Yes.
And this scene hit a little too close to home for me. But also, I just want to say that these prison pink uniforms have become, in my head, one of those iconic cinematic images.
Of just all the inmates staring.
All of the inmates just in the pink outfits is, to me, as iconic as the floors of the Red Room in Twin Peaks.
Sure.
It's just one of those images that, again, talking about our neurodivergence, my brain is locked onto, and that is going to be with me until I die. It's
gotcha.
Just like all of the prisoners throughout the rest of these prison sequences, all of them in these pink and gray striped uniforms. That's just locked in. It's such an amazing image in my brain.
I understand.
Yeah.
It's lunchtime, and the food is awful. Seems to have hair, like fur in it. Like
yes.
a big clump of pet fur.
Big clump of fur that someone does not know that someone's eating. And
Paddington wonders why nobody talks to the chef, because nobody enjoys this food.
Right.
But they've been eating it for 10 years, 3 meals a day. He's warned against talking to Knuckles.
There's one prisoner, by the way, who, as we see, as the scenes go on, constantly forming his food into an elaborate structure of a windmill, which gets more elaborate every time the camera cuts back to him.
I did not notice that.
And I fucking love that.
Now,
this movie's attention to detail is incredible.
And the T-Bone, the inmate that threatened to murder this baby, says he should go do it.
Yeah, he says, you need to talk to Knuckles. You
Now,
should tell him that you don't like the food. He would want to know.
I know what everyone's thinking.
Right.
Knuckles the Echidna.
Oh my god.
Paddington Sonic crossover.
This is where we tie in Idris Elba being the father of, or the caretaker of Paddington.
I asked Daddy.
Yes.
I asked Daddy if I could voice Tails.
I see.
And he did not return my phone call. So you know what I did?
What'd you do?
I set a homeless man on fire.
That seems unrelated.
How else am I going to get Daddy's attention?
I think you need to sit down with Idris Elba and have a long conversation, because clearly
he's so busy DJing. And I tried to DJ, but you know what? These claws were meant to scratch people, not records.
I gotcha.
I'll throw hands every time I get a chance to.
And
by hands, I mean paws.
Right, yes.
And by throw, I mean smoke meth. But also, I hurt a lot of people because it makes me feel like a big man. Now we get introduced to another amazing character, Knuckles McGinty, played by the ever fantastic, one of the greatest character actors on Earth, Brendan Gleeson.
Yes. I think Brendan Gleeson might be one of my favorite actors working today.
Absolutely. I don't know that I've ever seen him in anything where I didn't love him.
Yeah, no, he's every time I see that he's one of those actors, kind of like, honestly, like Peter Capaldi or James McAvoy for me, where I'm like, if he is in something, I need to see it.
Yeah.
Like, I have no interest in whatever the fuck Mr. Mercedes is. Is absolutely on my list just because he's in it.
Mr. Mercedes is fine.
Yeah, but that's all I hear is
like,
that it's fine. But like, it's just fucking Brendan Gleeson. I have to watch
instead of watching 80 hours of Star Trek in a week, just burn through all 3 seasons of Mr. Mercedes.
Well, I mean, the most recent season of Dimension 20 just ended, so I need something to do. I might as well.
Yeah, no, Brendan Gleeson is fucking incredible, and I love that he's in this movie. I love that they were like,
oh my god,
we need, like, it's not, I don't know, like, they got all these people are legitimate actors. Sally Hawkins, fucking huge.
Imelda Staunton is one of the
all
great,
of these people.
Is an incredible fucking actor.
It's not all stunt,
No, it's not stunt casting. They just cast an incredibly stacked cast.
Who's fucking intimidating? And also awesome.
Yes.
Brendan Gleeson.
It is sort of a moment where you're just because Brendan Gleeson does have a type that he plays. He plays the intimidating Irishman in everything, and casting him in this part does immediately mean something to the audience when they see it.
True.
As much as in The Man Who Fell to Earth, the audience of the 1970s would have seen David Bowie and been like, space alien, got it. Like,
you've never seen that movie.
I never have, but I know that's why they cast him.
Okay.
But yeah, he also does this incredible tightrope walking act where he plays a hardened criminal character who at no point do you not believe is a hardened criminal who is threatening and has inflicted violence on people in the past, or at least has a reputation of doing that. But at the same time is a character that the audience is supposed to love and supposed to really identify with it in a certain point. It's such an incredibly difficult tightrope act to walk. I don't think as an actor that I could do it. I don't know how I could wrap my brain around that.
It's hard. Like,
and he makes it look easy.
And that bear's not there. That bear is not fucking there, so he's acting against a person in a green fucking ping pong ball suit, or a fucking tennis ball, or whatever the fuck they're using.
Or maybe just nothing.
Maybe just nothing.
And I genuinely keep forgetting that.
Yeah.
Yeah, as we're talking about it, as I'm watching the movie, I fully forgot that that's the
Because
case.
it's not just with Knuckles. It's not just with Brendan Gleeson, where he's just having this amazing chemistry with this fucking CGI bear. It's
real,
like
though.
all of the Browns, Mrs. Bird, you believe they love this thing that does not exist in reality. Not just the concept of a talking bear, but they were acting against nothing and being like,
the bear is
very special to me.
The bear is not on set.
No.
Also,
do you think they had like a baby bear cub in like a very tight cage? That like
God,
Hugh Bonneville would just like stare and be like, "Oh, that poor bear."
I do think he must have been on set to deliver
that
his
would
lines,
be nice to believe.
just because, like, again, the performances are so believable and so good. They must have been acting against something.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe they're just that incredible, but
It's possible. It is a great cast.
It is an incredible
But
cast.
Paddington goes to talk to Knuckles, and he gives him some constructive criticism, which also involves bopping him on the head with a baguette, or as Knuckles calls it, a baguette. Which
That's right.
I could believe that was in the script. I could believe that was a Brendan Gleeson improv. Either way, it's fucking hilarious.
Whoever came up with that, genius.
But he also
having Brendan Gleeson, incredible stage and film actor, going, "Don't ever hit me again with a baguette."
But Paddington also ends up spraying the apron with ketchup and mustard.
Yes. Again, perfectly innocently. Paddington has no malice or guile to anything that he does.
He's not Bart Simpson.
No, he's not. He's not. At no point does Paddington tell any character to eat his shorts.
Nor does he say don't have a cow.
That's true.
Paddington is a bear.
Yes.
Who, if a person wanted to have a cow,
Yeah.
let him.
Absolutely.
You do you.
Absolutely.
I remembered what I was going to say, what feels like half an hour back now.
Sure.
I just wanted to point out that the sock turning things pink was also done in The Simpsons.
Oh,
in the
was it?
episode where Bart's lucky red cap got put into the wash with Homer's work shirt, and he went to work in a pink shirt, and that eventually led to him being committed to an insane asylum. Where he met Michael Jackson. In an episode you cannot watch on Disney Plus. I'm sorry.
I wonder why. But yes, and also at some point during this scene, I think we passed it, but before we move too far, another one of Aunt Lucy's aphorisms is mentioned, where she says, this one honestly almost means more to me than the one that the movie is mostly based on, the one about being nice to people and everything will work out. Aunt Lucy says, if you look for the good in people, you will find it. And that is such a beautiful thing to me.
And we're going to get a tremendous speech at the end that reflects that very well.
Yeah, I think that we could say that that is absolutely also a theme of this movie. It just is not said as often as the first one that was said in the opening.
But Knuckles is firmly about to murder this bear.
Absolutely.
But somehow, in the fracas, I've watched it a couple times. I'm still not sure how this happens. Paddington has a marmalade sandwich that he has stashed away that he has not eaten. But as he is struggling to get away, it ends up in Knuckles McGinty's mouth.
Yes.
And it changes him.
It changes him on a deep level.
Knuckles has never had this marmalade.
Marmalade. Again, like, talking about timing again, bears flailing. The sandwich ends up in Knuckles McGinty's mouth. The camera is mostly on Paddington. And he, like, opens his squinched up eyes to be like, why am I not being punched? Cut directly to Brendan Gleeson's face. Brendan Gleeson's eyes have turned into Bambi's eyes.
Yes.
Somehow.
And he is...
Through only the power of Brendan Gleeson's acting, just turned into Bambi eyes of just like, what is this perfection I taste?
And he is no hands eating this, much like Paddington ate the sandwich at the beginning of the film when he was rescued by Aunt Lucy.
Apparently it's the correct way to eat.
No, that's the transformative way to eat.
Oh, I see. Okay. It's the moment that made Paddington who he is, and it's a moment that's going to change Knuckles McGinty forever.
And he takes Paddington under his protection.
Yes.
That's the protection of Knuckles McGinty, Knuckles with a capital N. And he has his name tattooed on his knuckles.
Yes.
Misspelled with an unnecessary apostrophe.
Right. If you are ever, for whatever reason, writing down anything about this movie, the proper spelling of this character's name is Nuckelels. Apostrophe S. Get it right, because
but everything
branding
else
is very important.
Mrs. Brown thinks there was a reason why the thief took the popping book. They go to the steam fair and talk to Madame Koslova, who the fair is named after.
Yes.
And whose grandmother, also named Madame Koslova,
yes,
started the steam fair and made the popping book for each city she visited.
Yes.
The original Madame Koslova was beautiful and talented on the trapeze, and everywhere she went, she was given great riches. Jewelry was thrown at her.
Yes.
And she hid it away, and she was killed by a magician.
Yes.
Oh, I'm a magician.
Oh my god. Paddington, you're a magician?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll do close-up magic.
Okay.
Like that guy from Night Court.
Like Harry
Anderson, yeah.
You do have a sort of Harry, you do have a sort of Harry the Hat energy to you.
Well,
yes.
he's the... I'll only do one trick.
Okay.
And I get in a car.
All right.
And I drive it off a ramp through a hoop of fire.
Okay.
And you give me $1,500.
That's not exactly close-up magic. You're pretty far away from the person.
You can stand as close as you want, mate. I don't give a shit. Just give me my fucking money, tosser.
Also, what's the magic trick part of it?
You're amazed?
That's not a Harry
that
the
a bear can do that?
That's not a Harry Anderson trick. That's a Evel Knievel trick.
You're Evel Knievel.
Okay, thank you, I guess.
No, not a compliment.
What do you have against Evel Knievel?
He called me the N-word. He was very drunk.
Oh, God.
And he didn't have his bifocals. The magician killed her, hoping to get to her riches. But when he went to go open her strongbox, all he found was the popping book.
While you're watching this movie, if you're not watching it to take notes for a podcast, you're just sort of like being brought along on this adventure. Everything feels like a part of the world that you're watching.
Yeah.
But to take a step back for a second, this movie that I started off the episode comparing to the feeling of watching an episode of Peppa Pig or Bluey now has a circus magician murder plot in it.
Yeah.
Continue.
And it's very quick. It's not a big deal isn't made of it.
No,
but,
and there's no blood or nothing. It's not an especially violent
murder. A magician
murder.
just arranges a trapeze artist to fall from a great height.
Yes.
Like magicians often do.
I
assume to get into the Magic Castle in L.A.
You have to have provably murdered at least one trapeze artist.
You have to be a practicing magician.
Right.
You have to do an audition.
Yeah.
You also have to have proof that you murdered some sort of circus entertainer.
Right.
Could be a lion tamer, could be a trapeze artist, could be a strongman.
Absolutely. But it has to be a circus performer of some kind and not a magician. They're frown on killing other magicians.
Mrs. Brown figures out that the popping book is a treasure map to Madame Koslova's fortune. Mr. Brown doesn't buy it. He is a constant naysayer through this movie.
Yes.
And Mrs. Brown comments that he's so close-minded.
Yeah.
What happened to the man she married? Mr. Brown says he's long gone. He's just a creaky old man. No longer Bullseye Brown, who was a daft hand at throwing baseballs at coconuts. We get a flashback to his heyday, which seems to be the 70s, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be the 70s, yeah.
But he seems like 20 in this. That would make him 70. Almost 70 at the time this is taking place.
Oh, man.
But he
could be the 80s, I guess.
He looks like a hippie because he has this long shoulder-length hair. He has a bandana wrapped around his forehead.
Yeah.
Shades, and he's throwing the ball at the coconuts, which I guess is a traditional British carnival game.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Boney M's song "Daddy Cool" is playing. And this Boney M is a great disco band. Go listen to Daddy Cool. Fantastic song. This is so fucking hilarious. This is one of the funniest goddamn things I've ever seen because this is so low stakes.
Yes.
This is so low stakes for someone to base their coolness on.
Yes.
It's, oh my
But,
God.
hey, he isn't just the person who bases coolness on it. His wife is in the sequence.
Is so enamored with his ability.
She's over the moon for him.
And at the beginning, as she foreshadows, she mentions his daft hand at the coconuts.
Yes.
Says people used to call him Bullseye Brown.
Yes.
Apparently, he had like folk legend status.
Yes. No, absolutely. And again, in the world of this movie, the way that this movie is set up, it feels like, of course, that's just how this works.
But that this is a source of Henry Brown's insecurity, where it's like, oh, couldn't do that anymore.
I used to be a contender. No, the Daddy Cool flashback takes place over the course of no more than maybe 5 seconds.
It's very quick. It's very quick, but it's such a hilarious image,
and it's perfect.
It's
art.
such a great joke.
It's beautiful.
Next, we learned that the murder magician was Phoenix Buchanan's grandfather.
Is this where we learn that?
Yes.
Okay. Somehow I missed that and thought we only learned that at the very end.
Nope. He says he has a picture of the magician. He says grandfather. And the next clue is at a cathedral. I think it's St. Paul's.
I'm not sure. Very iconic landmark cathedral in London.
So of course, Phoenix Buchanan goes undercover as a nun.
Of course.
And the joke is never like, oh, there's a man dressed in women's clothing.
Right, yeah.
It's just that Hugh Grant is dressed as a nun.
Yeah, it's more just that this character is so
extra.
He
doesn't even think like, I could go undercover as a priest.
Oh, well, I mean, that's part of his clever plan, as we see later on.
But we're back in prison. Knuckles wakes Paddington up to make marmalade, which Knuckles is not going to help, and forbids Paddington from making noise. He's also very critical of Paddington's methods.
Yes.
When Paddington says he finds the working environment stressful, God bless that bear. God bless that bear for saying it.
Yes.
And he's about to quote Aunt Lucy, as he often does.
Yes.
When Knuckles makes a critical mistake. He insults Aunt Lucy. He calls her gullible, naive, mushy-minded, an old bat. And Paddington gives Knuckles a hard stare, which he was taught by Aunt Lucy.
Yes.
To give when people forget their manners.
He gives just like this absolute dagger's glare that fully shakes up Knuckles.
He is put in his place.
Put in his place. I also, again, talking about details that this movie has, during the scene, Knuckles is, when he's not helping Paddington, he's reading a newspaper called The Hard Times. And the headline says, "Get out of jail free card, not legally binding," judge says.
There's a lot of little jokes like that in the papers.
Yeah.
But Paddington says that even though he looks like a hardened criminal, he's innocent. Knuckles can either help him clear his name or help him make marmalade. Knuckles says his mitts aren't much good for cooking. But Paddington sees a fine pair of orange squeezers.
Yeah. His skills with knives and brutal fisticuffs will do him very well when it comes to cutting up ingredients and squeezing oranges.
Now I want an Iron Chef type show. That's like, so have you ever heard of chess boxing?
I don't know. What is chess boxing?
Chess boxing is where you play some chess and then box. and then go back and forth.
So it's the stupidest version of what you might think chess boxing would be.
I want cook boxing. I want Knuckles in the Iron Chef arena. Mm-hmm. You cook while it's baking. You just beat the shit out of each other.
I thought you were going to say you wanted a version of Iron Chef where all of the contestants are people currently incarcerated, and they're making dishes
just
based
only
on,
like commissary food
based on crimes that they've committed in the past.
Oh, that would be great too.
Yeah.
I'd also just love a show where inmates got to cook.
I think that
great. Would be fucking wonderful, and that's sort of where this movie is going.
Yeah, we'll get to it when we get to it.
We get a cute cooking montage of the two making marmalade. Mm-hmm. Paddington adds a lot of sugar. Now,
you just gotta.
Now, and I feel like I say this every 20 minutes, but here we get another one of my favorite scenes. Mm-hmm. The Browns go to the cathedral where the police are investigating. Here we meet my favorite character.
Oh my God.
Barry the security guard, played by Simon Farnaby, the co-writer. Simon Farnaby, this is a recurring character from the first film.
Is he really? Okay.
Yes. Simon Farnaby, the only thing, he's pretty well known in the UK, I guess, but I only know him from the film Mindhorn, which is not great. It's not great, but he's in it, and he's hilarious.
In Mindhorn.
And in this.
Because he is definitely hilarious here. I've not seen nor heard of Mindhorn.
Hilarious. The Browns ask what happened, and Barry says, "A nun went berserk. Happens all the time." And he's so casual. He's so flippant about. He's so assured in this idea that nuns go berserk. That word, berserk. It's the perfect choice.
My God.
Go berserk all the time.
This character, what's the character's name?
Barry.
Barry the guard is the best security guard character in any movie ever made.
Yes.
He's absolutely casual. Unflappingly casual the entire time, sipping from his cup. Even in a flashback we get of him doing actual actions, he's still got the cup. The only thing he ever does is just in this moment, right after giving that thing, the only sort of security guarding he ever does.
Oh yeah, a nun is about to cross the line, the police line. He's like, "Oi, oi!"
He just raises a hand. He's like, "Oi, get back in there, sister."
But he was the witness to the crime.
Yes.
He saw a nun branch off, which was, of course, Phoenix Buchanan.
Yes.
Collecting another clue. And during the course of the collection, he caused a statue to fall to the ground. Mm-hmm. Barry radios for backup, stating that an unusually attractive nun is causing chaos. And they need to stop that stunning sister! And... okay, so the joke of Barry in the first film was that for some reason Mr. Brown dresses up like a lady.
Right.
And he goes to somewhere, the Geographic Institute, whatever, and Barry's a security guard there, and he's attracted to Mr. Brown in dress. I never feel like the joke of this is that, oh, haha, Barry is gay, or Barry likes... whatever. I think it's just that, maybe Barry finds men attractive. It doesn't feel like a punch down joke.
It does not feel like a punch down joke.
It feels like Barry thinks he's so great, but is oblivious to the fact that this is a man in drag, and also he is so casual about professing his attraction to this perp, and
it's the performance of Barry more than the actual fact. If we're simply in love with a man in drag, the movie doesn't feel like it would think less of him for that.
No,
but it's more just sort of, again, Barry is so Barry.
Yes.
the way that he is, and it cuts back to him, and he's still casually sipping his drink. He's like, the most beautiful nun I've ever seen in my life, and he's got this sort of this cocky, weird,
he's
sort
so
of energy
full of
to him.
Like he's the hero of Paddington too.
Yes,
even though he's just in this one scene,
he's fully convinced of his own stardom of this film,
and he's talking about how after he spotted Phoenix Buchanan, he's like, so of course jumped into action, like you were saying. He's just trotting along, sipping his coffee, it's fucking hilarious. It's so goddamn funny.
That being said, just because, especially in England recently, I heard someone, an English person that I follow on YouTube, actually refer to England as Turf Island. There's like a lot of issues in the UK right now when it comes to queer representation, queer rights.
Yeah.
In general, not that we in the US would know anything about that, but I will say, for the record, the movie doesn't have any queer representation in it.
No.
And as we always say, if you disagree with us, if you find this joke offensive, you're right, and you should. That's up to you. We don't think that this was intended with malice,
No.
but it's not like we can definitively point to something and be like, see, the movie has this grand message about queer representation.
Yeah.
No, it's a light joke.
It's a
either
silly
going to
thing.
be funny or not to you. It's entirely up to you.
Yes, I find it hilarious
and not harmful. But
No, I don't
we
think so.
are both straight white cis men, as
Yes.
we always have to say.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Phoenix Buchanan escapes by doing a quick change into a bishop's outfit.
See, that's why he couldn't do the priest. He had to start with a nun so
Right.
that he could switch and make the quick getaway later.
The Browns ask if they could describe this nun, and Barry is more than willing.
So it would be my pleasure.
And then, goodbye, Barry. Thanks for being in our film.
Oh my god.
It's time for the prisoners to try the marmalade sandwiches. Mm-hmm. Knuckles is very nervous about the response, but the inmates love it.
Yes.
They applaud for Paddington and Knuckles, who has a strange warm feeling in his tum-tum.
I think that's pride. I don't like it.
The inmates wonder if there's anything for dessert, or as they say in England, pudding.
Pudding.
Which, if you've ever heard Another Brick in the Wall, that intro, like, you can't have your meat until you eat your pudding, that's not literal pudding like Jell-O
You
pudding.
can't have your pudding until you eat your meat.
True.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
I've only listened to that song 100,000 times to the point where I don't enjoy it anymore. You can't have your pudding until you eat your meat.
Yes.
Pudding is what they call dessert.
Right, yeah. Which did definitely confuse me as a child listening to that song.
Oh, it did for me as long,
Yeah.
but it still made sense. I was like,
Also,
yeah, you got to eat your dinner for your dessert, which is Jell-O pudding.
Jell-O pudding. Another one that confused me is as a kid watching the George C. Scott version of A Christmas Carol. The Cratchits are at home saying like, "Oh man, we got to get ready for this Christmas pudding. We got to get ready for this Christmas pudding." And they pull out the Christmas pudding, and it's like a cake. It's like a lava cake.
Yeah.
And as a kid, I was just like, English pudding is so weird. Like, why does it look like that?
But Paddington and Knuckles only know how to make marmalade.
Yes.
But Paddington opens the floor if the inmates know any recipes.
Yeah.
And they do, including Charlie Rumble, who makes a mean apple crumble.
Incredible. Charlie Rumble, by the way, never says a line in the movie.
He just grunts.
He grunts. So someone else has to inform us all that Charlie Rumble knows how to make a mean apple crumble.
Yes. I don't know. That line makes me so happy. I'm not sure what it is. I just love it. I just love that this is known about Charlie Rumble.
This is known, yes.
T-Bone offers to make a very elaborate, I can't even remember what it's called, a very elaborate
Dessert with like this incredible sauce. It sounds like something that Gordon Ramsay would make.
But here's where the prison reform happens.
Yeah.
Soon the canteen.
In a montage.
In sort of, not really even just more
they're
like sweeping through the
number.
canteen, and as they're sweeping through it, it changes, but it's become colorful. It's become warm. Here's my big problem with this film. It seems like now all these inmates are eating is dessert.
That's not a
runs
balanced diet.
A dessert cart, like all they're eating is like
Yeah.
sweets.
Yes,
Like,
truly.
You need protein.
Yeah.
You need some starches. You need some veggies.
It is a fantasy world. We can allow it. Some things.
This is what. Again, this is the childlike nature of it, and the childlike nature of Paddington.
Exactly.
But I just imagine all these men, like their teeth rotting out of their head. I feel so bad for them. Like
the movie does make a point of while Paddington eats almost exclusively marmalade sandwiches, he always eats it on whole grain bread.
Oh, does he?
Yes, it's always whole grain bread.
I know the crusts were cut off. I did not
the
catch
crusts
the whole grain.
were cut off, but it was whole. It's whole grain. You can. I noticed it when he shoved it into Knuckles' mouth.
Oh, okay.
You get a really good look
You
at it
get
at that point.
Some of those seeds. It's not just the canteen.
Yeah.
The whole prison is transforming. There are flower boxes on the guardrails. The inmates dance. They jump rope. The warden even reads them bedtime stories.
Yes.
And again, this is childish. It's outlandish. But it's making a point that if you treat people right, if you treat people with kindness,
like
if
people,
then prison can actually be rehabilitative.
Exactly.
But America is the land of the for-profit prison, so it
Right.
doesn't make sense to rehabilitate people.
Yeah. And,
So-
and also, like, all the myth of the tough on crime narrative and like
Yeah.
the lone cop trying to clean up these streets has made us view criminals as less than human.
Yeah, but
and the point of this movie is that even someone like Knuckles McGinty, who is as stereotypical a bad dude as
Yeah.
you can get in any of these movies, again played by Brendan Gleeson, a man who has spent his entire career playing stereotypical bad dudes. If you look for the good in people, you will find it. If you treat people like people, they're much more likely to grow and change as a person than they are to otherwise. You see this in, like, if you look in the real world, applications of this anytime that you see like prison programs.
Oh yeah, like we're going to do yoga, we're going to do theater, we're going to do something to engage in, like,
organizations that have taken like overflow from animal shelters and allowed prisoners to have pets to take care of. In
John
prisons.
Waters taught in prisons.
What did he teach?
He would like teach film, he would teach writing, stuff like that.
That is, every time you say something about that man, he becomes more badass in my mind.
He's I highly recommend his book Shock Value.
Absolutely, yeah.
And again, it's not like the movie is. It's all meant to be sweet and family friendly. It's not bonking you over the head with it. It's just like, it's just obvious if you are in any way progressive, where it's like, oh, right, yeah, treat people like humans.
It's kind of like the anti-capitalist messages in Mary Poppins. You probably have never thought about Mary Poppins as an anti-capitalist movie, but the minute I said that, you started thinking about it, and you're like, oh yeah, yes it is.
I don't think I've ever seen Mary Poppins front to back.
Really?
And not in what little I watched of it, I watched as a very young boy.
One of my favorite movies of all time.
Really?
It's an incredible film.
Because you're a fan of great accents.
That's exactly right.
Then the next day, the Browns visit and relay the popping book plot to Paddington. Mm-hmm. Then we get another one of my absolute favorite scenes.
One of the best scenes.
Where they're talking about, like, there's this gang of men, but no one identifies them. And Knuckles pops up and is like, why don't you let me take a look? And soon, all of Paddington's new prison friends are popping into this visit.
Yes.
And they all give a little salutation. They all give a little hello.
Because they want to meet the Browns that they've heard so much about. Paddington's such a nice little boy.
And it's just this you think it's gonna stop, but it keeps
just
going.
keeps
it
going.
keeps going, and it's like one of them like says he hopes he can depend on the Browns for their vote.
Which is never really explained.
No, but it's wonderful. It's wonderful. We just see all these characters, and they all are so friendly. Mm-hmm. But
it's quite a rogues gallery. I wish I'd thought to write down all of their names because all of them are hilarious.
Yeah, I don't remember most of them. I know Spoons is one of the main gang that we're going to see later.
Yes,
but
it's so good.
While Mrs. Brown is super pleased to meet all of Paddington's new friends.
Yeah.
Mr. Brown is less enthused.
Right.
He reaches over. Obviously, they're in like the classic visitation thing. There's a glass divider. He switches off the microphone and he begins to denigrate these men. Say like they're criminals. They're no good. Like we shouldn't be relying on them. And Knuckles informs him that he turned off the light, not the microphone. But again, we're in other...
With the great delivery of Brendan Gleeson going like, the switch for the microphone is on the other side. It's labeled microphone.
But again, like, it's not like none of them go off on Mr. Brown.
No.
They're like, no, I get it. Mm-hmm. If there were a group of criminals, it would be us.
If there was anyone who would know a group of criminals, it would be us. And
given that, everything seems hopeless because even they don't recognize the suspects.
They say this looks less like a gang and more like a costume party.
Mrs. Brown walks through the neighborhood, which has become much less friendly without Paddington.
And you see, specifically, it's because Paddington isn't there. Like the woman who always forgets her breakfast doesn't have her breakfast and is now shorter with everyone because she's hungry.
The man who calls him Puddington, who he would always remind about his keys, gets locked out of his house.
Locked out of his house. Peter Capaldi's character is running around being a dick to everybody about this. He couldn't be happier about this situation.
She runs into Phoenix Buchanan, who is curious about the investigation.
Yes, I wonder why.
They go to Phoenix Buchanan's place, and Phoenix Buchanan thinks Mrs. Brown is barking up the wrong tree about all this stuff.
Yeah.
But he has good news.
And she's excited. What? What's good news?
He thinks he's secured funding for his one-man show. It's a musical and character review, and he launches into a bit of a song. Listen to the rain on the roof go pit, pitty, pat, pit, pitty, pat. Oh no, you look sad. Oh no, you don't like musicals.
What a gigantic asshole.
Yeah. But Mary is actually sad because life is going on without Paddington.
Yes.
But Phoenix Buchanan slips up. He mentions that the man had dazzling blue eyes.
Again, because his ego is always getting in the way. Not only can he not conceive of someone not being interested in the idea of him having a one-man show,
yes,
but also he can't stop complimenting the drawing that he knows is of him.
Yes.
He's pathologically incapable of not self-aggrandizing at any given moment.
And Mrs. Brown catches him. It's like, it's a pencil sketch.
Yeah.
There is no color. And Mrs. Brown realizes that Phoenix Buchanan is the culprit. I also appreciate that in this movie, the wife is the... I guess it's not that uncommon, but she's the voice of reason. She's the clever one.
It's voice of reason, but not in that sort of like hacky sitcom-y way where everything is being told from the male perspective and is like, I guess it's time for my wife to save my ass again. It's more of like she's her own character. She's a character in her own right, but her personality and what she's going through with her search for an adventure and to be involved in this movie allows her to see things that her husband, who is very introspective and very
consumed in his midlife crisis,
he is unable to see.
And we also will point out that Phoenix Buchanan is a Platinum Club member of Mr. Brown's company.
Yes. What company is it like insurance or something?
It's insurance.
Okay, gotcha.
While Mr. Brown does not believe Mary, Mrs. Bird does. And she says that actors are the most evil, devious people on the planet. They lie for a living, which is a criticism I've often heard of actors.
Something, I don't know, maybe it's because I am an actor. Actors viciously taking the piss on actors.
Oh, it's hilarious.
Always the best thing in the world to me.
It's always fucking funny. I've seen that joke before. Like I said, I've heard
it's a common bit.
But it always tickles me. Because we are terrible.
Yeah, no, we're the worst.
There's a reason we want to be other people.
Yeah, absolutely.
In prison, Knuckles and a few other inmates, including Spoons, and I don't know if Spoons and the man who looks like Nick Cave are the same person.
I don't know.
But there's a man who looks a lot like Nick Cave. Knuckles and a few other inmates are planning a jailbreak so they can hit the streets and clear Paddington's name. Woo! Paddington isn't on board. He believes in the Browns.
Yes.
And Knuckles and the others tell him that the Browns will forget about him.
In several situations in this movie, while the prisoners are definitely... They do want the best for Paddington. They are his friends. They still, because of their background and what they've experienced before meeting Paddington, are often the voice of the cynical, worldly view encroaching on Paddington's sort of more silver lining view of the world.
And here's where I also
optimistic. That was the word I couldn't
Here's
find.
where I also got more neurodivergency vibes, where it's like Paddington is speaking to the other prisoners through a pipe.
Yes.
He is not having a face-to-face encounter with them. They are effectively voices telling him the worst.
Exactly.
So, like, I identified with that, where it's like, well, I know in my heart this is true.
Right.
But at the same time, I have these voices telling me the worst possible things.
Yeah. Absolutely.
The Browns go to visit Phoenix Buchanan's agent, and
played by Joanna Lumley.
Joanna Lumley, yes,
who I love always,
and record some of what she says. Meanwhile, Mrs. Bird distracts a postman as Mrs. Brown hides herself in a large basket in the back of the post van. Now, this postman, I recognize his voice. Oh. He is Joel Fry, who plays Frenchie on Our Flag Means Death.
Oh.
So he has gone on from this very bit part to a pretty sizable role in an HBO television show.
That's fantastic. I also wanted to make the Our Flag Means Death during the moment when the prison warden was reading stories to a bunch of hardened criminals, but I forgot to, so I'll bring it up now. But yeah.
The postman delivers Mrs. Brown in the basket to Phoenix Buchanan's house. When he arrives home, he gets a call from the Brown children, who play sound clips of the agent to lure Phoenix Buchanan out of the house so Mrs. Brown can sneak around.
And I just want to touch on, very quickly, one of my favorite lines in the whole movie. One of the lines that they recorded of Joanna Lumley, because she's Joanna Lumley, of course she was going to say this, she keeps talking about these pastries they brought in.
Yes.
And she says, nice buns, by the way. And so they accidentally play that part of the recording over the phone with Phoenix Buchanan. And Phoenix responds, thank you. I've never had any complaints about Mr. and Mrs. Butticheek.
Some of the language used in this film is almost like UK Akewoodian.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
It's so odd,
but it's always very just like Akewood. Everything that a character says is so completely them, and no other. You couldn't take a line that any character has, give it to any other character, and have it make sense.
But yeah, I almost wrote down the body cheek line.
Yes.
Mr. Brown sees her through the window and goes over to scold her. He's in his bathrobe, he's in his pajamas, and he's like, you're breaking and entering. And she says, I've only entered. And then he immediately breaks a vase. It's very funny. Mrs. Brown finds some clues and also finds out that Phoenix Buchanan is not as rich as he seems. Or as Mr. Brown puts it, my God, he spent a lot on face cream. Mrs. Brown realizes there's an attic, or as she calls it, a secret room.
Here's the exchange. A secret room. It's an attic. A secret attic. It's a normal attic. Everyone on the street has... Oh my God, he's a weirdo.
I wrote down the oh my God, he's a weirdo part because Hugh Bonneville's delivery is so fucking perfect. And here's the thing. Here's the beautiful thing. Is the way movie filmmaking works, like they're climbing up the ladder and they go into the attic. Those are two different sets. Yeah. So Hugh Bonneville had to stop midline and then pick it up. God knows who. It could have been before. It could have been after. How many days separated?
Who fucking knows?
It could have been ADR'd. Who knows? It
could have been.
It's fucking perfect. And it's hilarious because they find...
The timing is perfect in this movie.
They find Phoenix Buchanan's mannequin/costume room.
Yes.
/crazy palace.
Yeah, his crazy palace.
Of course, there's all the disguises he's been using. Unfortunately, Phoenix Buchanan comes home because he forgot to wear an ascot.
Or as he says, my cravat.
Oh, is it a cravat? I gambled. I was like, it's either an ascot or a cravat.
I genuinely do not know the difference, but he definitely calls it a cravat because he's always going to choose the most posh way to refer to anything.
I missed that line, and it was during the part where this felt like a real slog to me, just to take these notes, so I didn't go back. It was like, does he say whether it's an ascot or a cravat? One of the greatest tragedies of my life.
Yes.
I was in A Christmas Carol my senior year of high school, and I said to the costume lady, can I wear a cravat? But what I meant was an ascot.
I still don't know the difference.
Now I've missed out on my chance to wear an ascot.
Oh, no. I mean, you could just wear one in everyday life.
I mean, you need a certain type of outfit to
That's
really
true. Yeah,
wear
you
an
couldn't
ascot.
wear it with a polo shirt.
No. And he catches Henry. Phoenix Buchanan catches Henry, who is hiding behind the couch. Henry says that he's inspecting the house for the insurance company.
Part of their platinum is a service for their platinum members.
And Phoenix buys this, even though Henry is in his bathrobe and pajamas, and he's brought his wife along. And here's my favorite Sally Hawkins bit.
Okay. My favorite Sally Hawkins bit was the bit just before.
Oh, the attic
going up into the attic. Yeah, that bit.
He pulls back a curtain, and Sally Hawkins is, without missing a beat, obviously because she's directed and it's in the script, she is feeling the window, and she's like, yeah, this feels secure. It's so natural. It's so funny. I love it without missing a beat. Again, I understand that it's scripted to be without a beat. But it's so fucking great.
It's still so fucking great because how many movies have you seen that are scripted a certain way, have great writers behind them, and then just have like a director who doesn't understand the material, who doesn't understand the sort of tempo situation that we're talking about, that lets that shit just fall all over the place.
Yeah, you could easily do that joke where he pulls back the curtain, she's just standing there stock still and like, but no, do it. They just like, of course, Mrs. Brown is so savvy. She's so into this plot that she's like, I can roll with anything. I can do anything. And here we get another great bit of language where, because Phoenix believes them,
yes,
Mr. Brown declares everything to be tickety-boo.
Yes.
And he heads out.
Great British expression, tickety-boo.
Lovely bit where through all out, Mr. Brown has, in the corner of his mouth, it's very subtle, there's a bit of dried toothpaste.
Oh, I didn't catch that. That's great.
Or does he buy it? Or does Phoenix buy it? Because he immediately goes up to the attic and confirms that the popping book is still there.
Yes. He only says to them before they leave, says, that sounds plausible. And then he goes up to check the popping book, so he may not have believed them as much as they thought.
But again, that's a great bit of lantern hanging. Where it's like, I guess. And for as devious as he is, Phoenix doesn't seem like a bright man.
No, not remotely.
And Phoenix once again converses with himself, doing different characters, and like sort of working out the plot. Like clearly he knows all of this already, but he needs to exposit to himself through all these characters. Yeah. And of course it's Hercule Poirot.
Yes.
Who uncovers what all the letters he's collected mean. But we found out that they're musical notes, and Phoenix knows just where to play them.
And one other thing I really like about, again, attention to detail. Not only does he have different voices for all these characters, the characters are in character in his head.
Oh, yeah.
Hercule Poirot is the one who solves the case. Ebenezer Scrooge is the one who reminds him about the importance of finances and counting the books. Macbeth is the one who says, we're going to be found out, we're going to be found out. Hamlet is the one who's just like full of ennui.
Yeah.
Every character
is in
character in his head.
Fantastic. And also, again, Hugh Grant is fucking killing this.
Absolutely.
He is portraying each character individually. He's doing
with a different accent, different voice.
It's in any other movie that were not a family film, he would definitely have been nominated to shit.
Absolutely.
For the wide range that he is showing.
Yes.
But because this is ostensibly a children's movie, he does not get recognized for all the lifting he is doing.
He's doing an incredible job. I also want to give special shout out to Ben Whishaw, who is being overshadowed by the fact that he's an animated bear. Actors who do motion capture and voice acting work are just as legit actors as every other kind of actor, and they deserve to have some accolades thrown their way as well.
Absolutely.
And are way too often overlooked. Ben Whishaw does an incredible job as this bear.
Oh, he does.
He's a fully grown human man who absolutely convinced me that he's a tiny child bear.
Now, I'm going to ask you a serious question.
Okay.
Do you think Ben Whishaw killed a bear cub and climbed inside of its carcass? Just to understand what it's like. Do you think he's Daniel Day-Lewis method, but like Ed Gein Daniel Day-Lewis?
Ed Day-Lewis, or maybe Daniel Gein.
Daniel Day-Gein.
Daniel Day-Gein. I like that. No, I don't think he probably did.
I agree. The Browns go to the cops. Mistake.
Yeah.
Although police culture is different in the UK.
It is, but they
it's still great.
They still have their issues. My favorite thing about British police culture, though, is that instead of trying to make their police cars look badass, they make all of their cops look like
visible and noticeable, and
they also make them all wear bowler hats, which is just a little bit friendlier.
True.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, I wish riot police wore bowlers on top of their fucking helmets.
Yeah.
They seem like fucking wimpy.
Wish we didn't have riot police, but yeah, absolutely.
I'll gladly give you a nightstick today for a hamburger tomorrow. The cops refuse to help because they suck. Worse news. The Browns forgot it was visitation day for Paddington.
They were so busy cracking this case wide open that they forgot.
Paddington is heartbroken.
Because this is right after he was told that they would forget him.
And I have never seen such evocative CGI work as how sad this pretend bear is. It's fucking moving how destroyed this CGI creation is.
Yeah.
And I don't know that, like, I've seen CGI that looks good.
Yeah, of course.
I've seen CGI that looks cute.
Yes.
To go back to Baby Yoda.
Is a puppet.
Right. I keep forgetting because it's the only goddamn thing I can think of when I was like,
The little chameleon from Tangled. That's cute.
I've never seen it.
Okay, it's a decent film.
But this is so goddamn good. And at night, Paddington cries in bed as he's imagining himself disappearing from a family picture of the Browns. And his tears, well, I guess it's just one tear. It causes plants to grow in the cracks of the wooden floor, and his cell transforms into the Peruvian jungle. And this is... I completely forgot about this sequence during this watch, and this is beautiful.
I forgot about this. I forgot about the popping book segment.
I always remember the popping book segment.
This is another segment where, again, like, this doesn't need to be there. We get that the bear is sad, but it adds so much to this movie.
It starts as a slow transform, then it becomes more immediate, but it's fucking beautiful, and
it's gorgeous.
When he's in the jungle after it's fully formed, he hears Aunt Lucy calling to him, and he runs to her. They embrace. She says, "What are you doing here? I thought you'd be at home." And Paddington says, as the camera does a 180 around him, the jungle slowly transforming back into the prison cell,
the reality of a situation closing in on him once again,
that he's afraid he doesn't have one anymore.
Yeah. And again, not only is the scene beautiful, heartwarming, and not heartwarming, but like heartbreaking, and just incredibly well done. More importantly than all that, it gave Imelda Staunton more lines.
Yeah.
I cannot express to you how important that is in your movie.
After this beautiful sequence, which is so, again, it's so emotional, it's so beautiful. It's a work of art. Paddington agrees to Knuckles' escape plan, which conveniently is happening that night. And here is where the movie once again transcends. Here's where we get full-on Budapest Hotel, Wes Anderson Jr. stuff. We get a cutaway view of the prison, and I love all of this. I sort of wish there was more of this in the movie, and this is sort of my hope for Paddington 3, but Paul King is not returning as director.
Oh, no.
And Paul King and Simon Farnaby are only doing the story. They are not writing the script.
That makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, I know.
It makes me nervous.
I'm not crazy about it.
But I will say, this is the most Wes Anderson this movie gets, with the big cutaway thing of the prison. This is actually also, I just thought of this, with the earlier comparison I made between this filmmaker and James Whale. This is actually something that James Whale used.
Oh, yeah?
Very briefly. Again, he would use techniques here and there wherever he felt like they were necessary. There's a very brief sequence in 1931's Frankenstein where you're following Henry Frankenstein in that movie, and Elizabeth walking through the house, and you're just sort of like going past wall after wall after wall. And it's a very brief sequence, but it's that cutaway vibe of like voyeuristic filmmaking thing. I absolutely love that. Love that trick whenever it shows up.
Oh, I love it too. We see our four escapees simultaneously reveal holes in the floors of their cell. They jump into a tunnel below. They follow that tunnel onto a giant slide into the laundry piles. And again, we're seeing most of this from side view or from a front view of them moving forward. Paddington goes into the clock tower, scaling the pendulums, Charlie Chaplining his way through the clockwork in a modern times. Yep.
Yeah, modern times homage.
Again, calling back to silent films. He even gets a little grease spot of a Charlie Chaplin mustache on his face. Wipes it off. At least they're paying credit to their homages.
Absolutely. That's what makes it an homage, not a ripoff.
And this takes him to the warden's office, where he swipes some keys for the canteen. They go to the canteen, and Paddington, of course, swipes a plate of marmalade sandwiches.
Absolutely. You gotta.
The inmates scale a guard tower and make a hot air balloon out of a laundry basket. Many sheets patchwork together.
Yes.
And a flame. And it's wonderful. And it's whimsical. And I love it so goddamn much.
So much.
It's they could have escaped by boat. They could have escaped by foot. Whatever. It's just, it's beautiful and it's wonderful.
It's sort of we mentioned as a joke in the opening, Freeway 2, Confessions of a Trick Baby.
Yeah.
In that one, there's a sequence where this movie and that one take the opposite approaches to the same problem of, hey, we have sequence where our characters are supposed to escape from the prison because the plot has to happen outside of the prison. Mm-hmm. What are we going to do with that? Because we don't really care how they get out. We just need them out. Freeway 2 Confessions of a Trick Baby took the approach of, let's just not really explain it. Let's just have them get out. And which is a fine enough way to do it. And then I said in that episode I didn't really care.
No, I didn't.
It was like, it's fine, get them out of the prison.
But
even in
most
this movie
prison break movies have a prison break.
Most of them. And this movie decides we're not going to focus on the prison break. We're going to get them out of the prison as quickly as possible, but we are going to give you the most whimsical and enchanting prison break you will ever see.
We're going to dazzle you so you don't give a shit about the specifics.
Right, yeah. So how did they get those holes in the floor? How did they make this a hot air balloon? Who gives a shit?
Yeah. It doesn't matter.
This is
delightful.
Sometimes
I'm sure I talked about this on the show before. Mm-hmm. I call it the Indiana Jones principle.
Okay.
If it's a good movie, I don't give a shit how much I have to suspend my disbelief.
Yes.
I'm there every step of the way.
Right.
If it's a bad movie, I'm calling out that shit every step of the way.
Every step of the way. Yeah, absolutely.
But
this movie has successfully enchanted us, so we are good.
Here's a note that sometimes I write notes behind where I should say them, and I'm like, I'll remember this note, and I'll bring it up at the appropriate time.
Right.
I did not for this note. Simon Farnaby, the man who plays Barry the Guard,
yes,
and co-wrote this script, is also co-writing the prequel to Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, Wonka, which I don't know how to feel about that.
I knew about that movie because there were photos that were posted online of Timothée Chalamet as young Wonka in his uniform, in his costume. And yeah, that face that you just made, the Brad made a bad face, is exactly how I felt. I did not want there to be a prequel, did not want Timothée Chalamet in the role, did not want any of it, did not want Green Eggs and Ham. But that is the first thing I've heard that makes me slightly more interested in it.
Yeah.
Which is going from 0 to 1, but it's still something.
Something. I really don't know how to feel about it. But Simon Farnaby also co-wrote the movie I don't like, Mindhorn.
Oh.
So he's not
perfect.
Perfect.
But no one is.
But he's a funny actor, and he did Paddington too, so who knows. Yeah. But as they fly away, and I watched this movie in pieces, just to make it easier for me.
Yeah.
So we're picking up where I watched from today.
Sure.
And I started to get very emotional today.
This is around the part where I got really emotional too, I watched it all in one chunk.
As they fly away, T-Bone, the huge inmate who first threatened to kill Paddington,
this part,
looks out his cell window and he says, "Good luck, little bear."
And I just died.
Oh, I almost started crying.
My God.
I almost started crying.
Yeah, no, I did start crying.
The gang changes clothes and lands their balloon. Mm-hmm. Knuckles leads them to a seaplane. Is he secretly Baloo from Tailspin? No. It turns out he's not a bear, but he lied to a bear.
Yes.
He explains that they were never going to clear Paddington's name.
Yep.
They were just going to escape the country and make marmalade.
Yes.
Paddington is understandably hurt because Knuckles broke his promise.
Oh, speaking of Willy Wonka, I just realized one of the actors in this gang of criminals that they're with in the seaplane scene is Charlie Bucket's dad in the Tim Burton version of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
It's the Nick Cave looking dude.
Yeah.
Because the two others are Brendan Gleeson.
Yes.
And an Indian man.
Yes. Who does not look like Nick Cave.
No. Paddington runs away and wanders the snowy streets, hiding when he hears police sirens. And earlier I made a joke where, wouldn't it be funny if there was a movie where Paddington was like the fugitive? But we do get a little bit of that.
That's just a little bit, but you do get it.
But I would love Tommy Lee Jones. Mm-hmm. Now Tommy Lee Jones.
Yes.
Elderly, decrepit.
Yes.
Barely alive, in an iron lung. Other U.S. Marshals are pushing that iron lung down the water tunnel, and Paddington says, "I didn't steal that popping book." And Tommy Lee Jones goes, "I don't care." Then he dies on the spot. R.I.P. Tommy Lee Jones. Rest in power. See you at the crossroads.
You just love iron lungs.
They're the funniest medical equipment. What, are you going to make a joke about a
You're right.
dialysis machine?
No, you're right. You're right.
You do make a lot of jokes about
I
dialysis
do.
machines.
Off mic, it's just like constant dialysis jokes.
Yeah. So much in this movie comes back.
Yeah, everything in this movie is planting and payoff.
And sometimes it's like really obvious shit where it's like, this is not necessarily elegant, but I don't care. The coin in the ear, that this is where Paddington stores his one coin.
Yes.
He pulls it out. He makes a payphone call to the Browns, but he gets an answering machine.
Yes.
He forlornly tells them that he broke out of prison and he's on the run. He says he doesn't know why he's calling, but he just wanted to say, and then the payphone cuts him off. He walks away, but the phone rings. It's Mrs. Brown, and she's so happy. She's so happy to hear Paddington, and Paddington apologizes for escaping, but he thought they had forgotten about him. And again, my neurodivergency, my insecurity is like, no, I give people a lot of shit because I'm like, you don't care about me.
Right, yeah.
And I'm like, even though I know they do, it's just in the moment, it fucking hurts.
I get it. And they say the line, "We'd never forget you, Paddington."
Mrs. Bird says that.
Mrs. Bird says
they
that.
couldn't
And
forget
again,
about him.
Me bawling.
Yeah.
Cut to me bawling.
They tell him that Phoenix Buchanan is to blame for everything. And together they work out that Phoenix Buchanan is headed for the steam train from the steam fair, which is now leaving Paddington Station. Which, of course, Paddington is named after.
Yes. Wasn't he, was found at Paddington
Yes,
Station or something,
absolutely.
wasn't he? Yeah. I don't know why I know that.
The family will head there, but Paddington needs to get there too.
Yes.
Even though he's a baby bear.
Right.
And does not even own a gun.
How un-American.
It's miles away.
Yes.
But thankfully, he sees his friend the garbage man.
Yes.
And he hitches a ride, and they just plow through traffic. It's a refuse emergency!
Amazing line. This is clear the road. This is a refuse emergency.
Meanwhile, Peter Capaldi is on a bullhorn in Windsor Gardens, warning the neighborhood that Paddington has broken out and could be on his way there, and he's raising the panic level to mass hysteria. And we get this beautiful monologue from Mr. Brown that makes me cry and is something we should all live by. Peter Capaldi says, "We don't want him here." And Hugh Bonneville, Mr. Brown, says, "No, of course you don't. You never have. As soon as you set eyes on that bear, you made up your mind about him. Well, Paddington's not like that. He looks for the good in all of us, and somehow he finds it. It's why he makes friends wherever he goes. And it's why Windsor Gardens is a happier place whenever he's around. He wouldn't hesitate if any of us were in need of help."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's.
I'm getting emotional.
No, I am
again.
too. Like
yeah,
it's.
Yeah.
It's.
What a weird episode this is.
I'm just proud that neither of us has full on cried yet.
Yeah.
It could be getting there though.
It could be getting there.
But that speech,
yeah.
it's.
My God.
Again, it's not necessarily subtle, but it
doesn't need to be. Movies don't need to be subtle.
No, they don't.
Movies don't need to be subtle, and they don't need to be realistic.
Beautiful sentiment where it's like, try to understand people, try to look for the good,
I think that subtlety is almost an overrated attribute in art these days, especially, again, I have to bring it up every time.
Subtlety has its place.
But
especially in a family film, though, it's okay to be broad.
Especially in this genre, but also, like, I can't help but bring it up. Squid Game is one of the most blatant, unsubtle critiques of capitalism I've seen in a dog's age.
People still don't get it.
And people still don't fucking get it. So I think you can be as blatant as you want, because, honestly, hit people over the head with that hammer. As long as you can do it as deftly as this movie does. Like, I barely even felt the impact. Still got the concussion, but I barely felt the impact.
And we get a nice, the community coming together moment where the Browns' car won't start.
Yes.
But the neighborhood rallies to give it a running start, and they get off, and they almost Caitlyn Jenner, Peter Capaldi.
Exactly.
Paddington makes his way to the train. There's a neat little bit where he infiltrates in a garbage bin.
Yes, and has a great line. I'm quite good at being a bin.
And he gets on board the train right after
Yes.
Phoenix Buchanan, which it pulls away just before the Browns arrive.
Yes.
But thankfully, there's another steam train right on a
Just
parallel
sitting there.
track. And thankfully, from the thing that happened an hour and a half ago,
Yes.
we remember that Jonathan knows how to operate a steam train.
Yes. And he gets in there, he rigs up the train, and he delivers one of the most badass one-liners in cinema history. My name's not J-Dog. It's Jonathan Brown, and I like steam trains.
And here, like...
And he punches it, and they roar off into the sunset, baby.
Again, it's not elegant. It's not this. The kids are not developed, especially Jonathan.
Especially John. This
Is
is
not developed at all.
the first time we've referenced his plotline since the steam fair scene.
But it still works. It still works.
still
I don't
works.
care.
It's the stuff was planted early enough on that this does genuinely feel like good payoff, even though we haven't spent a lot of time with those characters.
No, and some people might call it cheap. I consider it more like not necessarily a magic trick. It's more long form than it's like a con where it's like, hey, you forgot about the thing we said an hour and a half ago, didn't you?
And then here's the prestige.
Yes.
We introduced J-Dog, we made him disappear, and then we brought him back again.
Meanwhile, on the train is Paddington's judge, who
Yes.
gets some champagne spilled on him.
Everything that was planted earlier is coming back.
And delivers probably my favorite line of the film. Mm-hmm. Don't shush me, Gertrude. I have just been spilled upon by chilled liquids.
Okay, now that's an Akewood line right there.
Absolutely.
That's a fucking Akewood line.
And then the judge has some other antics, but that's the only thing worth calling out.
Oh, man. It's
Knuckles and the
great.
gang are flying away when they hear a news report that Paddington has boarded the train and the police are closing in on him. The other two want to help, but Knuckles isn't there yet.
He repeats his mantra that he told Paddington earlier.
I don't do nothing for nobody. Phoenix Buchanan finds a giant ornate organ and plays the notes he found. Mm-hmm. The Browns begin their daring rescue, going outside their train, jumping onto the steam fair train, as Paddington uses toffee apples to make his way across the roof of the train.
This train sequence feels like it's out of a Mission Impossible movie. It's so...
I kept thinking of the beginning of Last Crusade.
Yes, I haven't seen Last Crusade in so long, I forgot about that. But yeah, like, this is a legitimately tense and awesome action sequence. Again, in this movie about a child bear who went to prison until recently.
The toffee apples are also a bit of a callback because Paddington has one at the beginning of the film when he goes to the steam fair.
Yes, he gets toffee apples, he's using them to Spider-Man crawl around the train.
As is Mr. Brown doing a split between the two trains.
Calling back to his yoga.
Exactly. Phoenix Buchanan finishes the sequence and the treasure is revealed.
Yes.
Paddington grabs the popping book and startles Phoenix Buchanan, causing him to hit the machine and lock up the treasure once more.
So now he needs the book back.
Phoenix Buchanan pursues Paddington across the train's roof, and you know what?
Yeah.
Hugh Grant, as this
Foppish, crazy
foppish,
weirdo.
weird actor, is
Yeah.
actually kind of menacing in this scene.
The visual language in this scene is absolutely expertly done. You have Paddington in his little
Duffel coat.
his little duffel coat with his hat, holding onto his hat like the little silent movie comedian character he is, clutching this book for dear life, barely making it, acting more like a real person would if they were walking on top of a train, just sort of like running against the wind, panicking, deeply breathing. Whereas Hugh Grant is marching serenely and confidently,
firm, stentorian,
across the top of the train in a sequence that suddenly, again, makes this foppish weirdo
so intimidating.
As intimidating as like Jaws and James
It's like
Bond.
Darth Vader walking
exactly
into the blockade runner.
It's the visual storytelling. Again, it reminds me of that. Like, again, like I keep comparing him to Cruella de Vil, but it's that same arc where Cruella de Vil, throughout all of 101 Dalmatians, the original animated one this time, is such a doofy character. She's just like a gag, really. Yeah. And then you get that switch at the end of the movie where suddenly they animate her to be so much more skeletal, her eyes are on fire, and she's like a terrifying demon. You have that sort of switch where you can make this character intimidating all of a sudden.
And it works. Here's how impressive it is the green screen behind Hugh Grant during the sequence is not the best.
It's pretty bad, yeah.
It's one of the weakest parts visually of the movie.
They spent a lot on that cartoon bear.
But he is selling it.
Oh, yeah.
He is fucking selling it.
I barely noticed that the green screen was a problem at all. In fact, I didn't until you just said it, and then I played the tape back in my brain and was like, oh yeah.
And as he is marching towards Paddington at the end of the train, he delivers the immensely clever line, "Exit bear, pursued by actor."
Oh my god. If you know anything about Shakespeare, you love that line.
And just then, he falls through an open roof, and he lands in front of Mrs. Bird, Mr. Brown, and Judy. Mr. Brown is fully prepared to biff Phoenix Buchanan on the nose.
Right in the schnoz.
But Phoenix Buchanan grabs a saber.
Yes, and and this is also paying off something earlier, because when he caught them during the insurance scene where they were inspecting his house, he had a sword cane.
And we learned that he is stage combat level 4.
Which means nothing.
It sounds like a Scientology thing.
There are a lot of actors in Scientology. Maybe they
Really?
have...
Really, tell us more about Scientology. It sounds like you have the inside scoop.
Well, I mean, since we're doing hot takes from the 90s, anyway.
As Phoenix Buchanan grabs his saber, Mrs. Bird pulls down a gun.
Oh my god.
And Phoenix Buchanan kindly informs her he believes that gun only shoots plastic darts. To which she fires a dart at his forehead. Eventually, Phoenix Buchanan handcuffs the three to poles. Meanwhile, Paddington uses his window washing ladder to try to get from the fare train to the train that Jonathan is piloting.
Yes.
And Mrs. Brown is reaching out for him.
Yes.
Mrs. Bird uses a hairpin to undo the cuffs. And Phoenix Buchanan grabs Paddington just as he's about to reach Mrs. Brown. And Phoenix Buchanan couples the train, leaving Paddington behind. Triumphant, clutching the popping book, he moves into the train car. He's greeted by Judy, taking a picture, Mrs. Bird, and Mr. Brown, looking cooler than Hugh Bonneville ever fucking has. He just has this sudden presence of like, I am like the John Wick of the Paddington universe, but instead of killing people with pencils, I throw baseballs at people.
I throw baseballs at carnival games, at coconuts in carnival games.
Mr. Brown, firm and powerful, he chucks a ball at Phoenix Buchanan's head, knocking him out. Bullseye Brown. Alternative story, Mr. Brown is John Wick, and instead of his wife dying, he had this life. And he adopted a bear.
This is an alternate universe. For those who might not know us in real life or follow us on Facebook, Brad had a whole bit that he was doing on Facebook while watching this movie of being John Wick and tearing up his... being like, the bear shouldn't be in prison, and tearing up the floor, that I keep thinking about and laughing.
Yeah, no, that's...
I love that.
While I was first taking my notes, like, it did really strike me this time where it's like, this is an injustice.
Yeah, it is.
So
an
the post
injustice.
was like, me, tears in my eyes, that bear shouldn't be in prison. And then me, like, community activist, going to the window, throwing up the sash.
Yes.
That bear shouldn't be in prison. And then me, vindictive, going down to my concrete basement, taking a sledgehammer to the floor to reveal my stash of money and guns. That bear shouldn't be in prison.
Dun, dun, dun,
Because, like, I like to imagine sometimes, like, my favorite film characters teaming up.
Yeah, of course.
Paddington and John Wick. Paddington as a member of the Avengers.
Paddington, I don't know if I want Paddington and John Wick to meet. I do want Paddington and Keanu Reeves to meet.
Oh, absolutely.
It's two of the most adorable things on the planet. Two of the most adorable beings on the planet.
And again, Paddington, not a real thing.
I know.
But I just would love...
He's real in my heart.
I just would love if there was, like, a picture of Keanu Reeves with Paddington on his shoulders.
Aww, yeah.
That would be great.
That'd be adorable.
I feel like they have similar energy. I feel like they would get on very well. Like, I want a kindness Avengers. Like, it's Paddington. Mm-hmm. It's real life Keanu Reeves. It's Bandit, the dad from Bluey. It's like, I just want, like, the kindest people.
The kindest people.
The dad from Everything Everywhere All at Once.
Oh my god, yeah, absolutely.
We've been getting a nice rash of, like, good dads in media. That's another reason to watch Bluey. The dad is awesome.
Can't wait. Okay. Fantastic. We've been having a lot of bad moms, too, I've noticed.
Yeah, but Paddington is still in trouble.
Yes.
Because his car goes off the end of a track, over a cliff, and into the water. It rapidly sinks. But Jonathan stops the train and trained swimmer Mrs. Brown dives from a great height into the water and swims down to Paddington's train car.
She immediately develops gills, and the fish man is there to... Never mind.
Sexually transmitted gills.
Sexually transmitted
Happens
gills.
all the time.
Yes, it does. Just like toilet seat ADHD.
She opens the door, but it's still chained.
Yes.
Things look bad, and we get a beautiful fucking moment. Even though we know... We know, because we know how movies work, that everything is going to be fine. We get this beautiful moment.
It's Paddington 2. They're not going to kill the golden goose in Paddington 2, but it doesn't matter.
But Paddington and Mrs. Brown have this moment where Paddington reaches his hand out through the gap in the door and holds Mrs. Brown's hand. They just sort of gaze at each other, and it really feels like...
They're saying goodbye.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
And
it's, again...
Sally Hawkins is giving her all.
Yes.
That CGI bear is giving its all.
Absolutely. And I bursting into tears. Movies operate in realms of cliche, and they operate in realms of stories that have been told a million times before. 10 to 1, if you're making a movie, it's a story that someone's heard before somewhere.
It's all about playing the variations.
It doesn't matter. It's about playing the variations, and it's about making the experience enjoyable
It is.
while
And
you are there,
meaningful.
and meaningful while you're there. It's not about, like, trying to outsmart the audience, which it seems like everybody's trying to do these days in movies.
And what comes next is not necessarily unpredictable.
No.
We knew Knuckles and the gang were going to come back at some point.
Absolutely. It's Han Solo coming back at the Death
Exactly.
Star.
And the seaplane lands.
Yes.
And Knuckles and the other two jump out, and they all swim down, and together all of them fucking break the chain like Fleetwood Mac told us not to.
Well, they are criminals.
Yeah, true.
Yeah. And again,
And I'm starting to cry. I'm starting to cry from this fucking moment that I knew would happen, even when I watch it over and over again.
just because you know something's going to happen or that you can predict something will happen does not rob it of meaning.
No.
And if it's well done, it also does not rob it of its effectiveness.
Yes. So they rescue Paddington. Unfortunately, he's now sick. He has a fever.
He has a cold, which, of course, you can't actually catch a cold from being cold, so I think he probably caught the cold from being in close proximity to all those people in prison for so long.
Or just stress.
A stress
It
cold?
seems like,
okay.
It seems like what he went through is pretty traumatic
fair.
for a young bear.
Fair.
They rush him to bed. He wakes up 3 days later, and they tell him that his name is clear, and Phoenix Buchanan has been arrested.
Yes.
But 3 days means it's Aunt Lucy's birthday.
Yes.
And Paddington didn't send her anything.
Yeah.
She did so much for him, and he just wanted to make her proud.
Yeah.
And again, this is what I feel about a lot of my friends. Like, I just want to make them proud and
Yeah.
justify their affection and love for
It
me.
feels like there needs to be justification, even though there does not need to be.
The Browns take Paddington downstairs, where the whole neighborhood applauds and thanks him. Turns out the popping book was taken for evidence.
Yeah.
So they got Paddington a different present for Aunt Lucy. A trip to London. The doorbell rings. It's Aunt Lucy. They embrace. Roll credits. Roll tears down my face.
I have already said that I cried several times before this. This is the moment when I was absolutely destroyed.
Oh, yeah.
I was a mess.
Oh, yeah.
I was a mess at this scene.
And I can't explain it. I can't explain why it's so beautiful that this fake old bear gets to see London.
It's because it's Imelda Staunton and she got more lines!
We get another great song. Shake, 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 Sonora. Shake your body light. We find out that the escapees were all pardoned. They're changed men.
Yes.
Knuckles opens up a sandwich restaurant where he
tea
serves knuckle sandwiches.
Yes, I love it.
Mrs. Brown swam the channel.
Yes.
Mr. Brown gets promoted. Everyone flourishes. Everyone. Because even though Phoenix Buchanan is sentenced to 10 years in prison, he gets sent to Paddington's prison.
Which, as we all know now, thanks to Paddington, is the greatest prison in the world.
6 months later, in probably to take out of context, the single greatest scene in this movie.
Sure.
And again, I can't do it justice. But Phoenix Buchanan is putting on his one-man show, even though it involves everybody as a background dancer.
Well, here's the thing. earlier in the Joanna Lumley scene as his agent, she had a line where she said that the reason why he wants to do a one-man show is because he refuses to work with other people. He believes in his own greatness so strongly that he believes that other people just sort of rob him of his much deserved limelight. In this moment, he takes the song that we know was in his one-man show because he performed it earlier, again, Planting and Payoff, and he performs it not alone, but with the entire prison as his as his backing group and his dancers, and he learns this prison is so good that it teaches even a pathological narcissist like this dude, a cartoon narcissist, but still a narcissist, to actually work with others.
Yeah, and
believe in the spirit of community.
This sequence is amazing. He's singing an actual Broadway show tune.
Yeah.
I don't remember the official title. It's a Sondheim tune.
Yeah.
From a show called Follies.
Pit-pat. It is.
Pity that it's not a hurricane.
It's just the right level of annoying.
And the choreography is fucking beautiful.
Yeah.
It's insane the amount of time they spent on like a 35-second bit.
That is not even full screen. It's like a little window
it's chopped off
next to the credits, like a blooper reel or something.
It's fucking beautiful. It's amazing. It's hilarious. It's incredible.
And again, Phoenix Buchanan has been telling us how great he is the entire movie. And he has always seemed pathetic.
Yes.
Whenever he has said this and whenever he's tried to appear amazing. The most amazing that he appears is when he allows other people to lift him up.
Yes,
when the entire prison is behind him, making his dream come true of performing the song in front of, as he himself jokes, a captive audience. He looks the best he's looked in the entire goddamn movie.
And it's fucking Hugh Grant again. Endless accolades. He did
never enough accolades for this.
I'm almost certain he did the singing.
I'm pretty sure.
He does a lot of the choreography.
Oh, yeah.
And kudos to, like, it's so fucking... Because it's not just the inmates. It's the guards. Everybody... Who are they performing for? It doesn't matter.
No one knows.
It's just fucking hilarious. Like, everyone's doing the perfect showgirl routine. Like,
yes.
You have guards in the laundry baskets kicking their legs as they crisscross each other.
I'm pretty sure that there's even like a Follies reference with like some guards in a circle making shapes like they would in the pool in the old musicals or something like that.
But that's Paddington 2.
Yeah.
Billy, anything else you'd like to say?
Last thing I'll say about the prison scene, best movie-ending prison musical number since Blues Brothers.
Sure. Yes, I'll agree.
Yeah. If the absolutely unending, glowing report we have given of this movie so far hasn't made you watch it, I guess nothing ever will, but like... Goddamn, man! You just I don't care how old you are. I don't care if you don't have kids. Neither of us do. I don't care if you're a cynical bastard like we are. Just watch Paddington 2.
Watch good things. Like, it doesn't matter.
Sure, you can watch bad things too if you want, but watch Paddington 2.
But just like, it doesn't matter what genre or what type of movie it is. Like, if it's good and you enjoy it, watch it. Like,
I think a main reason, a bigger reason than Hugh Grant playing the same role over and over again, that people consider Hugh Grant to be a bad actor or have in the past, is because most of his movies were romantic comedies, which is a genre of movie that this film doesn't fall into, but is a genre that people see as lesser because it's for women.
Yes.
And no, it's not. It's a genre. There are good rom-coms and there are bad rom-coms.
Exactly.
And you should probably watch the good ones because you'll have a better time. Yeah. But it doesn't make rom-com a lesser genre any more than horror is a lesser genre, any more than children's film is a lesser genre.
Animation, anything.
Animation is a big one. People are still making fun of animation to this day, and it's amazing. So, yeah, Paddington 2 is incredible, and to me it's on the same level in terms of family movies as, like, the best of classic Disney.
Yeah. I love this movie. It's... means so much to me. It moves me endlessly. It's beautiful.
Yep.
And we'll see you next time. And remember, always be kind to people.
And if you look for the best, you will find it. Bye-bye.